launches into a brutal duel against the squad leader, Chilboin. He toys with him like a kid. He tore through the air, twisting to slip past the attack mid-flight. Rage explodes in Chilboin as he snarls and demands our MC fight him like a man. Then it plummets straight down. He hoists his 100-kilo sword like it's a toy. They bolt at each other, crashing together in a thunderous clash. Mujin snaps his sword back in a heartbeat, and he slams into Chilboin's blade so hard it sends Chilboin's sword skittering backward. He surged forward and snatched the chance. He launches a brutal haymaker into Chilboin's face, nearly flattening his nose, and hurls him through the air, slamming him into the ground. Shock slammed into them. He'd never been this powerful before. To uncover what drove our MC, you can pull this on a squad leader? Fine. Rewind to the beginning. Our MC bears the title Divine Demon, a powerful swordsman catapulted into a brutal showdown against 9 formidable sect leaders unite, launching a merciless hunt for vengeance. His sword tore through the air with breathtaking, bone-chilling skill. It empowered him to stand toe-to-toe with the sect leaders. He cleaves them down with surgical precision, every blow perfectly placed. They're all scrambling, desperate to crack how he's pulling this off. Before they can even blink, it's already happened. One by one, their lifelines were severed. It left them no choice but to conclude. RMC stands exposed, a merciless monster. They slammed him to the ground, pinned him, and plunged a sword through his heart, and flung every last one straight into the afterlife. He seared his name into history as the Divine Demon. As death's icy hand closes in, he teeters on the brink. Memories slam across his vision as a fierce relief floods his chest. His mission is finally fulfilled. Our MC shudders remembering the night 3 kids ambushed him. He'd been the Murum's notorious troublemaker. At the last heartbeat, his master tore him from death's jaws. Who forged him? When the smoke cleared, he forged his life on the edge of his blade. He mowed down anyone who crossed his path. Doubt gnaws at him. Is life nothing but the sum of his deeds? In that instant, his late wife's face slams into his memory, stealing his breath. His best moments blazed to life only when he stood beside his wife, but later they were ripped from his grasp. Tears stream down his face as he agonizes over the one burning question. What does his life even mean? And in the end, he shuts his eyes and lets death claim him. Suddenly, a storm of furious rants exploded around him, battering his ears, and he's convinced he's plunged into hell. He snaps his eyes open to find an obnoxious group looming over him, hurling taunts and non-stop trash talk. RMC's head spun. He was utterly lost, unable to grasp a single thing about what was unfolding. 2 kids stand beside him, and the boy roars that they won't hand over the clan's martial arts while his elder brother still lives. He roars that come what may, the martial arts must never leave the Flamehua clan. RMC scrambles, mind-racing, firing question after question as they try to make sense of what's happening. The opposition leader throws out a bold offer. Strike a deal, and every one of their worries will vanish. He dials Huamujin, our MC, and vows to scrape together money because his clan is utterly destitute. Mujin throws his clan's martial arts on the line. They'll clash in a duel, and the victor walks away with everything. The little boy reels, eyes wide. He can't believe it. His elder brother RMC is utterly hopeless at martial arts. Our MC is bone-weary from the ceaseless roar, and he's forced to bark at the group, "Who the hell is Mujin?" Even though he already knew. He's transformed into someone completely unrecognizable. He lets those words fly, and his younger ones freeze, baffled, eyes locked on him as if he's gone mad. His rival chokes out the question, and he grins. "They call me the Divine Demon." He erupts in laughter and dares Mujin to call him the King of the Underworld, then spills that his maddening rival is Cheongdobo, the second son of the Cheonghua merchant group. Mujin's siblings seethe. His madness has already gone off the rails, and now he's firing off nothing but trash. Even Bucheoyeon, master of the Cheonghua merchant group, sneered and openly mocked the clan. Mujin snarled that the clan was finished. The eldest son slipping into madness, then fell silent, straining to piece together what was really happening. Silence answered him. Dobu seized it as acceptance and barked that the duel would take place next month at the Biang Pavilion. Dobu slams his palm, glares at Mujin, and reminds him their pact was forged under the martial code. Break it and brutal consequences will follow. After the others vanish, Mujin's so-called siblings pivot and lock their eyes on him. They shove him into the center and demand his next move after forcing a duel on him. And the kicker? Mujin has never even swung a sword. Mujin roars with laughter. He knows swordsmanship is the very breath that drives him. He summons raw inner energy and strains to row the farm. A shock slams into him. It's gone, utterly wiped away, not an ounce left. Frustration explodes through him as he finally sees his body for what it is. Painfully frail and utterly weak. His sister crumpled into sobs, clutching Mujin's arm and begging him to snap back to his senses. The little girl spits, calling Mujin trash, and sneering that he's a fool for letting the merchant group walk all over him. Her brother snapped, ripping into her for trash-talking their brother and demanding she apologize. She glared, and flat out refused. Rage lights her eyes as she pins the blame for their parents' deaths squarely on Mujin. She bolts away, tears blurring her vision the instant those words leave her mouth. The little boy bursts out an apology for his sister. She sometimes loses herself to rage. He drops that line, then strides off. Mujin reels, utterly baffled, as even children now hate his guts and hurl madman at him. Mujin reels, confusion crackling through him. He knows the last thing he remembers is, he tore through the sect leaders, slicing them down with ruthless ferocity. Mujin swears he should have slipped away in peace. He jolted awake, heart hammering, and realized he was trapped in a stranger's body. He slams into the ground, frustration detonating from him in a raw, furious roar. Curiosity clawed at him. Who were those kids? Suddenly, his eccentric assistant barreled up to him. He demanded to know why he'd risked going outside with such a frail body. The other snapped that he'd been worried sick about him. Mujin fixes him with a cold stare and snaps, "Who are you?" It's obvious he doesn't recognize him. Shock slams into Masak. He figures Mujin's sunk into another seizure from the madness, and sure that Mujin's stricken with amnesia, he decides to spill his backstory. Back then, Hua Mujun blazed as a brilliant, respected kid. Rival Orthodox sects clamored to snatch him as their disciple. By 23, he'd seized the clan's helm. Sok's fed up telling Mujin. He's spun that story over 6,000 times. Mujin branded himself hopeless. His energy core was trash. But a savage curiosity drives him straight toward the madness everyone's buzzing about. Sok steels himself, locks eyes, and unloads the whole thing to him too. 17 years ago, Mujin and Dobo hurled themselves into an unofficial duel, swearing they'd fight without a single drop of inner energy. Mujin was only 6 years old. At only 9 years old, Dobo faced the duel, and he agreed. The two kids exploded into a fight, charging at each other with raw fury. As the fight intensified, the air crackled with every strike. Doble tore their deal to shreds and he unleashed a fist blazing with inner energy that crashed into Mujin. Mujin's disappointment snaps as he glares at Dobo and demands, "Why did you use the 7-wound fist when we'd promised to only throw fists?" Dobo sneered at Mujin, crowing that the technique was an heirloom of the Kongdong sect. Apparently the after effects slam you like a freight train. Dobo pounced. He tested it on his older brother the second the guy started strutting like he owned the place. The technique slammed into him, pinning him helplessly to his bed. Thrilled by the outcome, Doba burned with anticipation to see how it would fare against Mujin. They've branded Mujin a madman. Convinced the 7-wound fist's lingering aftershock warped his mind. Rage boiled in Mujin. Doba had made him useless. And then, without warning, he slammed down a challenge. A duel. Mujin snaps at Sok, demanding to know how they handled Dobo after you neutralized him. Sak then drops the bomb. Mujin's father was the one who later delivered the final verdict. Dobao wasn't just his cousin. He bore the name of the Cheonghua Merchant Group, a powerhouse counted among the Central Plains' top 10. Dobo did something unforgivable. Mujin's father let him skate away on a single warning. Mujin's blood boils. He can't believe the man forgave the very person who rendered his son useless. It's proof the man is utterly useless. Mujin sneers, brands the clan as utter trash, then slams Sok with a razor question. "Where are your parents?" Sok's voice broke as he warned that Mujin's condition had been spiraling downward, worsening with each passing day. Desperate to find a cure, his father plunged into crippling debt. 9 years ago, his mother's illness tightened its grip and took her from him. 3 years later, his father took his last breath and raced to join his mother in the afterlife. Mujin ended up the son who murdered his parents and tore the clan apart. The clan's name was dragged through the mud, his siblings left reeling, and all that remains are crushing debts, 2 loyal retainers, and a few martial artists. His younger brother Kwado Jin and his sister Kwa Soyeon flank him. Truth slammed into Mujun. He finally understood why Soyeon accused him. He was the one responsible for what happened to their parents. That night, Mujin tore into the history books the body's original owner had left behind. He walked away with a few hard-won lessons from them. Shock slammed into him. 30 years had vanished since he'd vanquished the 9 sects. He's trapped inside a madman's body, a hollow shell with no energy core. Regret doesn't haunt RMC. He swears his life to the Mujin, and dive headfirst to rescue the helpless kids. He knows the Cheonghua Merchant Group will be his fiercest enemy. They crippled the body and obliterated the clan. Top of his list, forge a battle plan for the duel with Dobo. It's only a month away. His body a ruined husk of trash. He realizes he must rebuild himself from the ground up. He drops into meditation and restarts everything from scratch, moving like a raw beginner. He still remembers his old life. The first time he dared to cultivate, it nearly broke him. This body's cruising. Its overwhelming innate martial aptitude is carrying everything along like a well-oiled machine. Mujin plunges into the body's untamed explosive energy and wrings out every last spark to push it to the absolute limit. A ribbon of golden light spilled into his room, setting every corner aglow. Moments later, Salk and the retainers caught his scream, and the ragged thuds of his struggle from where they stood. They barreled into his room and found him sprawled on the floor. One of the retainers smirks and deadpans. He's dead! He presses his fingers to Mujin's wrist and feels the pulse surge, stronger than before. Mujin lunges and snatches him, asking him why his body was racked by pain beyond measure. All because he tried to form an energy core. The retainer gapes in confusion as Mujin snaps the question again. Does my body harbor some strange constitution? The retainer then proclaims his constitution. The heavenly martial body. A rare, heroic constitution chosen by the heavens themselves. A fresh wave of pain crashes into Mujin, and like a thunderbolt he finally realizes his body's constitution is the exact opposite of the demonic arts. A body of pure, upright energy seared with agony every time it reached for demonic arts. Mujin howled, furious and bewildered that fate had cursed him with a constitution totally at odds with those others. His blood runs cold. He's in deep trouble. The duel is only a month away. He collapses, pain searing through him, and rasps to Salk. Who are those two men? Salk points and spits out the names. The man in green is Chief Steward Du Baixian. The man in red is Elder Zhou Huanbong. The instant he hears Zhou, a flash from his past life rips into his mind, but searing pain surges and smothers the memory, and he collapses. Darkness snapping shut over him. 3 days later, Mujin finally forces himself upright from the spot he'd been lying on, and Salk watches with growing worry. He's sure Mujin isn't getting the rest he needs. Mujin snaps that he's done lying down. A duel's looming and he has to get back on his feet. He slams his palm and barks at Salk to get him swords. Salk clamps a hand over his mouth to choke off laughter as the clan scrambles for food, and Mujin, bluntly demanding swords, finally blurts, "Is there no money in this family?" SOC reveals they're borrowing from the unorthodox Bangho sect, trapped by its brutal sky-high interest. They're drowning in a tidal wave of debt. A jolt of clarity hits Mujin. If he wants to help the clan, he has to crush the money problem first. Mujin scoffs and grabs more loans, convinced it won't hurt since they're already drowning in debt. Not yet. Worry claws at Salk. Mujin cuts him off, snarling, "Zip it and draft a letter to the two elders. I'm heading out for a walk." News of it slammed into the elders. Alarm exploded through them the moment they realized Mujin had slipped into the dangerous Bangho sect. Mujin and Salk thundered up to the Bangho sect's entrance. Mujin barks at the hulking bodyguard, ordering him to tell his boss he wants to see him. Kang Noho's not here to play. He barks at Mujin to get inside the building if he's here to gamble. Mujin demands Kang take him to his boss, and Kang snaps, anger flaring, when Salk lunges in, shouting for him to chill because Mujin's clearly unhinged. Their tension coiled tighter and tighter, ready to snap, until the vice master, Ma Jungbo of the sect, bursts in, eyes blazing, and barks, "What's the issue?" Kong bursts in, eyes blazing, and warns his boss that Mujin is trying to get face-to-face with their top boss. Ma snaps, "Why do you want to meet our boss?" And Mujin grins, "I want more loans." Ma snaps at Mujin. He doesn't have to see the leader to get some alone time. He beckons him into the building. Mujin and Salk soon plunge deeper into the manor, crossing a creaking wooden bridge as armed swordsmen flank them, blades flashing in the gloom. Panic tightens Salk's voice as he pleads to Mujin, "We can still turn back before it's too late." Mujin shakes his head, steady and defiant. "We've come too far to retreat now." Salk blurted that one particular granny had witnessed the sect leader locked in combat. Turns out the leader is insanely powerful. He obliterated his opponent in seconds, a martial artist who mastered a lethal killing technique. Mujin slammed a pointed question at Salk. "Why tell me this?" When Ma barged in and cut him off, they declared Salk more knowledgeable because he caught on in a flash. It's already too late for them. They've plunged into a deeper part of the cave. In a heartbeat, they're encircled by swordsmen with blades drawn. Disappointment boiled in Mujin as he slammed the question at Ma. "Was this your plan from the very start?" With a sly grin, Ma admits he baited him inside. He can't touch him out in the open. He's still holding back, not ready to give him the same free rein he once handed his parents. Salk stays silent with the group, collapsing to his knees and begging them to spare his master's life. Ma dares to mention his parents and Mujin snaps. Rage ignites because he has none. A bolt of cold clarity hits him. He's suddenly inside someone else's body. With everything in place, Ma snaps an order and his men charge in to teach Mujin a lesson. One of them burned with eagerness to carry out the order. He rockets after Mujin and slams a bone-crushing punch at him, and Salk goes pale, nearly fainting as that fist hurtles straight at them. Mujin snaps his arm up and stops the dude's punch cold. His bones exploded from within, splintering outward like shattered glass. He howls, pain ripping through him, and he slams into the ground, roaring that Mujin pulled cheap tricks, and Mujin grins. taunting that for someone his size his bones are shockingly soft. Mujin's eyes snap open. He realizes he has to act without using his pure power. Ma's fury explodes. Sick of his men dawdling, he bellows, "Finish Mujinov!" One of the swordsmen barrels straight at him, sword raised to strike. Mujin slips the strike like it's air and instantly pieces the pattern together. He knows he can't stand toe-to-toe with that guy's power, so he has to keep moving. He coils like rubber, ducks the hit, and drives a skull-crushing headbutt straight into the dude's face. He reels backward, howling in agony while his colleague swoops in to take over from him, lunging with a flashing blade as he tries to slash Mujin. Mujin explodes sideways, the strike tearing through empty air. The attacker lunges again, but Mujin rockets backward before he launched a savage kick that put the dude out of commission. Before the armed men could even react, they were toyed with like puppets on a string. In an instant, they hurtled down and slammed onto their knees. From a distance, Sok cried out, slicing the silence to make sure his master was safe. Mujin scoffs, grins, and calls him a dull head, insisting he's fine. And Sok's jaw drops so hard he blurts out where Mujin learned those martial arts moves. Mujin just smirks and says it's not martial arts at all, but stuff he picked up on the streets, leaving Sok stunned because he never remembers Mujin spending time there. Ma's eyes flash with approval as she hails him for successfully dispatching his men. He instantly hurls the coin at Mujin, the metal screaming through the air with explosive force. The coin whistles past Mujin's head, its pressure slamming into him and sending an electric jolt through his body. Rage crackling in his voice, Ma snaps at his men to get out. He'll settle Mujin himself. Mujin reels as a wall of hostility slams into him. He only wanted to speak to their boss. Ma snaps, fury lacing his words. My boss isn't someone a trash fellow like Mujin can meet. Fury exploding, Ma snaps his sword free and launches himself at Mujin, hell-bent on bringing him down. Suddenly everything flipped into a jaw-dropping twist. Mujin intercepts a blinding power strike with nothing but a pair of chopsticks. Ma's jaw drops in disbelief. He doesn't realize Mujin barely scraped this together. Mujin's flat broke, so a proper sword is out of reach. Mujin and Ma trade relentless blows, each strike answering the last. Mujin plants his feet and unleashes masterful martial arts, refusing to yield. Before Ma can move, a chopstick skewers his hand. Ma's disbelief burned. He'd unleashed every strike to cut Mujin down, yet Mujin still carved out an opening. Ma claws her way through the struggle while Mujin cuts loose, laughing and reveling in the chaos. He glared at Ma and snapped he'd regret it if he ever dared to underrate chopsticks. Suddenly, Ma is locked in a desperate tussle with a pair of chopsticks. Shock slammed into him. He'd written Mujin off as a powerless weakling who couldn't use chi. Ma reels, stunned that Mujin morphed into such a terrifying force so fast, and he refuses to believe this could be the same person he knows. Mujin relentlessly drives the chopsticks into his own flesh. She tore into him, snarling that his skills were utterly pathetic. Ma locks eyes with the chopsticks, refuses to back down, and launches himself into the air. He locked his sights on Mujin and primed his ultimate to finish him off. Hovering in the air, Mujin looms like a storm cloud, menace pouring off him and not a shred of fear in sight. He slips past Ma's attack with effortless speed, leaving Ma wide open. Ma reels, heart thudding, questioning how Mujin could hide a power like that from him. Mujin slams his fist into his chest, obliterating the last embers of pride. Terror surged through Ma's body. Mujin keeps hammering the same plea. He only wants alone. This time he spits the words, his face a deadly, terrifying mask. Moments later, bruised and gasping from a savage thrashing, Ma forces himself to sit down opposite Mujin. As Ma spoke with Mujin, his guards sank into bows before him, and Ma leaned close, voice razor-sharp, asking Mujin to say exactly what he wanted to know. Mujin locked eyes with Ma and snapped, "Why is your sect handing my family a loan with no collateral? I can feel malice coiling through this whole deal." Ma swore they meant no harm, but Mujin scoffed. Fear pulsed off Ma like a second heartbeat, and he felt it even from his seat. Mujin presses the question again, his voice a low, deadly warning. "Choose carefully unless you want to be punished." And he finally understands Mujin isn't playing. Ma finally spits out that the Chonghua merchant group gave the orders, and Mujin only smirks. He'd known they'd be involved. He snaps at Ma, demanding to know what kind of deal they struck with the Cheonghua group. Ma's voice dies in his throat, and Mujin snarls that if he falls defending the merchant group, no one will miss him. Ma, grabbing the wisdom in Mujin's words, drops the bomb. The merchant group has ordered them to lend Mujin's clan any sum they want, at brutal, sky-high interest. The Banghu sect will seize the Hua lands the moment they boot the clan off the chessboard. It hits Mujin like a punch. The family estate was the collateral all along. Mujin pressed Ma on what 300 borrowed gold would become in a year, and Ma, tapping the contract, revealed it would balloon into a jaw-dropping 5,000 coins to repay. Disgust curdled in Mujin's gut, but apathy slid in. He shrugged it off and accepted the deal. His expression hardens. He locks onto Mahu and demands to know who helps them clean up their messes. Ma drops the bomb that one of them belongs to the Four Martial Heavens social sect, an alliance of unorthodox sects. Mujin reels, and Sok snaps that it's a brand new alliance. Mujin snaps, rage exploding as he hurls the B-word straight at the Four Martial Heavens. Sok's convinced his master's madness is an act. He's never seen him face the alliance before, and now he's unleashing a storm of curses at them. Mujin snaps at Sok to drop it, saying he's not in the mood to explain. Mujin's patience finally ran out. He snapped and demanded to know where the dude who'd gone to bring the money was. Moments later, the dude storms in, hauling a box stuffed with the 300 gold coins he needs. Mujin's eyes ignite with pure joy the instant he sees this. He convinces himself it'll be enough. He barks at Sok that it's time to leave. Sok still balks at borrowing the thing, and Mujin cuts him off, snarling, "Shut your trap and take the money. Let's go." Ma and his guards close in around Mujin, driving him toward the entrance just as he steels himself to leave. Mujin snaps to have the date etched into his ledger, and he vows to wipe the clan's debts clean once he's finished with the Cheonghua merchant group. Mujin's voice slashes the silence, warning Ma not to take a single coin from the common folk. Disobey this order and face swift, merciless punishment. Ma nods to the order with a calm mask, but fury boils under his skin. He's counting down the moments until Mujin gets screwed over. In a heartbeat, Sok and Mujin barreled up to the house. Two elders rush forward to welcome them. Panic flares when they see blood splattered across Mujin's clothes, but Mujin snaps, insisting it's not his. They corner him with the question, "What happened at the sect?" He shrugs and says he only went to borrow money. Mujin warns the clan is desperate for money. Feed the warriors now, or the little they have left will vanish as men desert. The elders refuse to believe the sect borrowed money from Mujin, and instead brand him a thief, while Mujin snaps back that the sect's ledger records every transaction exactly as he told them. Mujin grips the elder's arm and says he needs nothing else, only that they care for his siblings and keep them fed and clothed. He thrust the instructions into their hands, barked a single, "Good luck," then turned and strode away. Mujin slips into his parents' memorial room, the silence hitting him like a punch. He'd lived his past life parentless. Words desert him. His mind goes blank and he can't summon a single thing to say. He finally rips open the silence, declares the money is settled, vows to look after his siblings and servants, and begs his parents' spirits to rest in the afterlife. He roars to them that he'll pulverize Dabo for daring to challenge him to a duel. Blissfully unaware, he fails to notice Soyeon and Dojin zeroing in on him as the kids stare, mouths hanging open in pure awe. Later, Mujin commanded 3 blades to be forged that were 50 kilograms, 80 kilograms, and each slammed the scales at a jaw-dropping 110 kilograms. The servants heaved the swords inside, their backs screaming as if they were about to snap. Mujin erupted into a triumphant roar the moment his swords finally arrived. Sok can't help himself. He snaps, "What the hell are you gonna do with those heavy-ass swords?" Mujin grins and declares he'll do exactly what everyone does with a sword. Swing it. Mujin lunges for the 50-kilogram sword, eyes sparking with raw excitement, and vows to kick things off with it. His smile shatters the instant the sword's crushing weight slams into him. He can't lift it. He coldly declares the body nothing but trash. He refuses to surrender. Straining every muscle, he discovers he can hoist it a little by using both hands. Mujin locks eyes with Sok's disgusted glare, snaps at him to get moving on his meal, and barks that he'd better pile the meat high, and sucked in a dejected breath, stalked away with worry gnawing at him. Mujin sits, sword gripped tight, the 2-week deadline burning in his chest. He's got to hammer his heart into steel before the duel. His heavenly martial body violently clashed with the demonic arts his master taught, and he realized the only answer was to learn the peerless 9 swords from his master's friend. Refusing to back down, he launches a furious, room-rattling onslaught, swinging his sword wildly through the house. Meanwhile, Dobo caught wind that Mujin crushed the Bungo boys so mercilessly they'd be unable to move for 2 weeks. Dobo's jaw drops. Mujin doesn't even have an energy core, so there's no way he pulled that off. Dobo grins wickedly, cooking up a nasty surprise to spring just before the fight. Dobo burns to face Mujin, and pry open the secret Mujin hides inside him when they finally clash in the duel. Mujin hurls himself into brutal, merciless training, driving his body to its absolute limits. He realizes he can drive this heaven-blessed body to its absolute limit. While training, Sok charges into every session like it's a mission, always assembling whatever he needs. He's convinced these preparations will finally let him dive headfirst into full training. He hoists the 50-kilo sword and slashes the air in thunderous sweeping arcs. He clung to his old master's words like a lifeline. After he unleashed the first form, Mujin rockets into his second form without missing a beat. His master's words thunder in his mind. Whatever weapon stands before him, he will emerge victorious. As the training intensifies, he suddenly realizes the pressure is already crushing him. It hits him. He has to endure it. In a heartbeat, everything shifted. He grips the sword and moves it with effortless, confident mastery. He sprang around the room, the sword a feather in his grip. He snaps into his third form, fighting to tame his chi until it surges to its fullest. He rigged a pile of training gear to mimic real combat. The first opponent, a hardball, hurtled at him and he danced out of its path for a while. Seconds bled away before a strike smashed into him from behind. After this, he charges headlong into a brutal showdown with spiked bamboo. He unleashes the fourth sword form and cleaves the bamboos to the ground with a single thunderous arc. At first glance, his sword work seemed almost embarrassingly simple. Watch out, it's lethal, cleaving through anything that dares stand in its path. He unleashed everything in his fourth form, but every strike cut only air. He couldn't land a single blow on the flying logs. They shoved him over the graduation line into the fifth form. This time he erupts into his fearsome fifth form and slices every last one to shreds. Fueled by his sword's power, he charges forward, certain that nothing can stop him. Numbers crumble to dust! He rockets past the logs, zeroes in on candles shoved into bamboo, and summons his sixth form. He swung his sword with such savage force the blast snuffed every candle at once. He smashes past it, realizes his next stop is outside the house where he can call on his seventh form, erupts into that power, and rockets up the walls to slip through again. He catapults into the ninth form, conviction roaring that his blade can slice through anything. He bursts into the sword's peak stage, and Mujin crashes to the ground as relief explodes out of him. He's not completely furious. He can't summon the final form he once held in his past life. He remembers sitting at his master's feet as a kid, but at first he shrugged off every lesson like it was a joke. He figured his master's friend was just yanking everyone's chain, spouting trash and bragging he could slice through anything with his sword. His master admits it might sound crazy, but he's sworn he won't let his friend's martial art die. Unable to inherit it himself, he charges Mujin to take up the legacy for him. My master dropped a bomb. My late friend was the only swordsman who could clash blade for blade with my skills, and he had no chi. Mujin's master claims he might have been using movement arts. When nobody in the sect could master them, the True Bearer picked Mujin's master out and trained him to hand the art to someone worthy. On hearing that, Mujin exploded into derisive laughter, ripping the arts apart with every scoff. His master delivers a flick to his head so brutal the skull almost caves in. He snarls at Mujin to obey every order he gives, and Mujin, with no choice left, grits his teeth and bows to his master's will. His master roared that if he performed the sword art 1,000 times his body would be transformed, and if he pushed it to 100,000, his chi would begin pouring into the blade. He swings it 1,000,000 times and erupts into invincibility. Even the deadliest swordsman can't land a blow. Mujin staggered. At 1,000 swings a day, it would take 3 years to finish the cycle. So he snapped at his master, asking if his friend could really match him, and the master shrugged, said he had no idea, but was pretty sure one of them would have died if they'd gone all out. A spark of curiosity burned in Mujin. What kind of man was his master's friend? Mujin finally snaps awake as Sok's varied, thunderous slaps rain down on him. Mujin blacks out after a single try, and the cold truth slams him. He's miles from 1,000. It's late and hunger claws at him. He has to eat, and the moment his eyes lock on the plate in front of him, he's like, realization slams into him. It's pork, and disappointment crashes over him. He snaps at Sok to grab pork next time. It's the easiest way to pack on mass. He grins and tells Sok to spend the money they borrowed from the Bango sect. He can always borrow more, and vows he'll keep devouring beef for the entire stretch of his fight with Dobo. Sok leans in, snapping, "When did you learn those martial arts, Mujin?" Because he could swear Mujin had never learned martial arts before. Mujin had already spilled it to his siblings, so he decides to rope Sok into the loop too. Mujin rips off his mask, voice like thunder, and declares he's not the real Mujin. He's the divine demon. Sok scoffs, convinced Mujin's just joking and spouting wild fantasy nonsense. Sok trembles at the thought that one day Mujin will forget everything and simply vanish. Mujin clamps onto him and swears he won't leave until the clan rules all of Sichuan. He has no choice. There's nothing else for him to do. Sok taunts his master, sneering that he's spewing trash, and a single savage finger flick to the head snaps back with sharp, stinging pain. When their conversation ends, Mujin dismisses Sok with a single line. "You're free to leave." Sok snaps into motion and obeys the command like clockwork. As the duel loomed, the two clan elders scooped up the kids and made a desperate break for it, sprinting to escape before the first clash. They're betting Dobo will finish Mujin, leaving the clan to fall like ripe fruit, ready to be seized. Shortly afterward, Mujin launched into brutal training, hammering his heart into iron. Now he hoists the 70-kilo sword with one arm, thunder in his grip. His technique teeters on the brink, ready to snap at any moment. Only a week stands between him and the duel. He's drenched in sweat in the training room. The kids burst in, hearts pounding, desperate to check on him. Mujin barks for them to leave. It's too dangerous for them to stay. And the kids snap back. They're not worried for themselves, but for him. They've watched him push himself to the limit for the past few days. Soyeon panics, convinced Mujin is retaliating for her words, and rushes to him, pleading she never meant them. She'd only spoken in a flash of anger. Those two kids slam our MC with a flash of the past, yanking him straight back to his lover's siblings, echoes ripped straight from his past life. Mujin plants a steady hand on their heads and declares, "You have nothing to worry about." The two kids snapped into Mujin's pose, raving about his impeccable posture. The way those two tear into each other over who's right and who's wrong makes him remember when he trained under his master. Each session a brutal trial that pushed him to the brink. A lightning bolt of realization slams into him. The peerless Nine Swords power lives and dies by the breathing technique. Realizing this, Mujin roared to the kids he'd win no matter what. He pleads with them to return to their room. Worry knotted the kids' stomachs. They bank on everything turning out fine. Alone, Mujin ignites the breathing technique and slams his sword through the air in a brutal, thunderous arc. He channels the breathing technique and detonates every ounce of his stored internal energy in one explosive surge. In a heartbeat, he seizes the very essence of the movement arts, a chi art that forges inner energy into raw power through flowing, deliberate movement. People scoff at movement arts as low-tier martial techniques, so nobody takes them seriously. Harnessing the breathing technique, Mujin sends the sword slicing through the air with effortless, lightning-fast swings. They handed him the blade and burning strength to bring the statue crashing down. Johanbong presses Sok, demanding to know what sparked Mujin's sudden change. Sok tries to pin Mujin's sudden surge of health on that lone Wudong session he endured. "Don't underestimate Joe. He's no fool." He commands Sok to report any changes he encounters directly to him. Sok bolts for the training grounds where his master is being trained, only to see it lying there, completely flipped over. He shouts that his food's ready, but Mujin's face falls. Disappointed, he says the training room's far too small for him to train in. That settles it. Mujin vows he'll start training in the hall. Mujin storms into the massive training hall and finds it teeming with warriors smashing through brutal drills. They all locked their gazes on him. Sok's voice hardened as he declared he'd train alone and urged the other warriors to pull out of there. He pleads with them to use the other training hall, but the warriors stare, stunned. Why is this half-dead dude spitting orders at them? They write Mujin off as no martial artist, sneering that wielding a sword proves nothing. Mujin zeroes in on the shift in their moods and fires off a sharp comment. The other warriors strain to rise against Mujin, but fear roots them to the spot. Squad leader Chaeli Boyne barked an order. Clear the hall and make way for the young master. Chael knows cold as steel. Mujin has lost his mind. Again, Mujin suddenly blocks Chill's path, snapping that he needs to be a man and say it to his face. Chihul whips around. Mujin smirks and pushes them into a duel. They're swordsmen, so fight! Kyle roared he wouldn't do it. Mujin is the clan's future leader. Mujin snarled, ordering Chihul to cower in the shadows and hide his face. He knows Chihul can't back up his words. That was all it took. Shield ripped his sword free from its scabbard. Adrenaline snapped through him as he coiled, poised to charge Mujin. The fight erupts, tearing the silence apart. Mujin slams his sword into the ground instantly before he catapulted toward Sheol, a daring all-or-nothing plunge into the abyss. He's just settling into chill when a hand slams his head down before he can even react. The warriors froze, bewildered. They'd never seen a duel fought without a sword. Mujin darts in a blur, taunting Chihul with lightning-fast moves as Chihul fights desperately just to keep up. Frustration exploding, Chio roared at Mujin. "Fight me like a man. Stop dodging my strikes." Mujin finally snatches his sword. Clear proof he's starting to take him, even if only a little, seriously. Shale explodes, roaring that Mujin is responsible for every disaster that has befallen the clan. Mujin fanned the flames of this whole mess, and Chill flat-out refuses to teach him martial arts. Chill bolts straight at Mooch. He intercepts the attack mid-air, unleashing the ninth form of his peerless sword technique. Ultimately, a shockwave ripped through his core energy, throwing it into violent turmoil. Mujin crushes down on Chihul, denying him even a single breath. He slams a devastating punch straight into his face. Chiola crashed to the floor, blood gushing everywhere. Mujin's voice slams into him. Everything's about to change. Shale slams to the ground, and the bitter truth hits him like a blow. Mujin has been completely changed. He felt determination erupt from Mujin like a furnace, fierce and raw, nothing like before. The shield slams into the ground, the impact detonating into a sudden electrifying shock. Sok and the other warriors leaned in, eyes locked on the duel. The warriors barrel over and surround their boss, sprawled on the ground and flat-out knocked out. Mujin plants himself like a conquering champion, glares down at Chill and snaps, "You got a problem with my victory?" One of the warriors roared at Mujin, accusing him of using a cowardly move. Chio clenches his jaw, steels himself, and blasts the guy with a deafening shout. "Shut your mouth!" He swallowed his pride and admitted he'd actually lost. Chihol drops to one knee and, voice raw, confesses he truly learned from Mujin. Mujin bows, respect blazing in his eyes, and says, "You're free to go." Warriors poured out of the hall, and Mujin snapped at Sok to fall in beside them. Step back, he craves being left alone. The aggrieved warrior rages on, adamant that Chihol restrained his blows and went easy on Mujin. He snarled that he hadn't. He'd planned to leave him half dead. He refuses to believe it, so she'll shove the truth in his face. He's stone-cold serious. Chill swears he doesn't know the whole story, but it's obvious there's more beneath the surface. The young master's power exploded. He's improved at an insane, exponential pace. Sok reels, wondering when Mujin turned into someone so different. Gratitude surged through him. He'd actually changed. That night, two elders convened in a shadowed room, voices low as they hammered out plans for the looming duel. For over 36 years, these two have served the clan, their loyalty unbroken and burning bright. They rave about the Flame Emperor, remembering how unstoppable he was in his younger days. An adept young man unleashed martial arts so dazzling the powerful Tang clan were forced to admit he was one of a kind. His strength stole their breath. Both elders gaped, then dropped to their knees and swore fealty to him. Joe's convinced they're trying to shred the loyalty to pieces, but Do snaps back. He doesn't buy it. They snarled that they just needed to resolve the bloodline problem. Do swears they've watched over Mujin for 17 years, and the clan's been crumbling ever since. They cling to the belief they've done enough. Sure, the Flame Emperor won't dare blame them when they cross into the afterlife. They've locked down the relocation funds and recruited a handful of martial artists to watch their backs. Do insists Joe go first while he stays behind to watch over Mujin a little longer. The Kongdong sect's martial master, hired by the Chonghua, will loom over the duel as its official witness. Joe freezes, eyes wide. Everything he just heard screams cheating. The merchant cabal oozes malice, hell-bent on annihilating every trace of the Hoa clan. Do snaps at Joe to scoop up the kids and wait at their promised location, even though the truth will slam into them like a tidal wave. Mujin gapes as his beef portions shrink, storms over to Sok and demands to know why. Sok then spits out that the steward's been handing him next to nothing. Though fury roared in Mujin over the whole mess, he tosses it aside and flaunts his killer outfit at Mujin. A single heartless remark shatters his beautiful imagination. He looked better when he was all bandaged up. When the moment to leave for the duel strikes, Mujin barrels into Do just outside the house. Mujin's gut screams he's here to stop him. Then the man snaps, "No!" He dropped the act and admitted it. He's there to shadow him to the duel. Mujin sees right through Do. He's just twisting himself into knots with worry. He's hell-bent on pulverizing his rival into a pulp. At that moment, Sok and Do leap into Mujin's wake, sprinting toward the duel venue. The arena crackled as a surging sea of fans pressed in, every voice roaring to see the duel, and the bettors who swarmed the stands to slam down their wagers. With the odds screaming in Mujin's favor, most people shoved their money onto him. He charges into the arena, lollipops clenched between his teeth. Onlookers wrote him off as a weakling and scrambled to void their bets. He bursts into the arena and finds himself staring down Choyon. They lean in, voice razor sharp. "Are you really going to go through with the duel?" The spectators, hearing that, seized on it. Mujin, weak as a reed, must have demanded the duel first, and they cried that his madness had run wild. Mujin's blood boiled the moment he saw the group painting them as villains. He vowed they'd pay. Mujin locks eyes with Choyon, voice like steel. He refuses to let her steal his clan's secret manual. That's exactly why he has to fight them. Shock ripped through the spectators. No one expected a merchant group to hunt down a secret martial arts technique. Choyon radiates cold confidence. Everything's falling perfectly into place, and she knows Mujin will pay for playing it cool. Flames roar to life as every last preparation snaps into place for the duel. The host roared, "Han Yegong of the Kongdong sect will stand as witness to the duels." Hanasin planted himself on the balcony, exuding icy strength, every nerve braced to bear witness to his master's wishes. He roared at both Dobo and Mujin to settle this fair and square, right in front of the watching crowd. Right then, Dobo ripped the truth wide open. "I told Mujin straight up that the combat outfit he's wearing was sent by my own hand. A personal tribute to honor his return." Mujin's grin sharpens as he flicks his massive sword free and snarls at Dobo that once the duel ends, he'll have no choice but to hand back the remaining goods. The crowd freezes, jaws dropping. No one has ever seen anyone duel with a sword that massive. They all swore the Flame Emperor's bare-handed martial arts were legendary. Even Do reels, shock slamming into him, and snaps at Sok. Did Mujin say anything unusual? At first, the two screamed for Mujin to run, convinced he had no hope of beating his opponent. Sak's belief in Mujin sparks to life. He even dares to say Mujin might actually have a shot, while Do's conviction is the total opposite. Once both sides lock into position, the referee slams the bell and the game explodes into life. Rage boiling over, Mujin rockets straight at Dobo the instant the fight kicks off. He heaved his colossal sword at him, unleashing a thunderous, devastating strike. Dobo snaps aside at the last instant as the strike screams past and rips a smoking crater from the ground. The crowd's jaws hit the floor as Mujin explodes into lightning speed and crushing strength. Nobody expected that. Everyone believed Mujin had no martial arts skill. Then he exploded into a blur of wild, impossible motion. Dobo staggers, utterly floored. He'd expected the duel to be a cakewalk. Mujin explodes into motion, attack unrelenting as he hurtles straight at Dobo again. He unleashes a flurry of swings, but Dobo snaps his forearm up and parries the strike. They square off toe-to-toe, the air crackling with raw tension. A thunderous clash reverberates, unveiling a glorious spectacle for them to behold. Choyun's jaw drops. Mujin refuses to quit, staying in the fight far longer than she ever gave him credit for. She's dead certain. Every drill, every hour of practice, he's still not even close to Dobo. Mujin unleashes a barrage with his massive sword, but Dobo twists and slips through every strike, dodging them with effortless flexibility. As the fight rages on, Dobo waits, then explodes into a razor-sharp counterattack that lands with sickening force. The blow hurls Mujin backward. He swears he'll burn Mujin down and leave him worse off than before. He radiates cold, lethal confidence, convinced he can shatter a man's will. Perched on the balcony, Do confesses he's stunned Mujin is still holding his ground in the fight. Sok snaps that, from what Do's seeing, Mujin hasn't even revealed his trump card yet. Do snarls that Sok's spouting trash, but Sok smirks, admits he secretly watched Mujin train alone, and promises something far more powerful is coming. Mid-battle, Mujin's mind snaps. His strength matches Dobo's. It left him reeling, interrogating every step of the training procedure. His grin says it all. No matter how mighty his opponent grows, he knows he'll always win. This time, he's out to kill Dobo. Meanwhile, Joe races with Mujin's siblings in tow. He's reached his destination at last while they lie fast asleep. A memory slams into him. Do had told him the reason he wasn't coming yet. He'll linger to seize whatever's left of Mujin once Dobo kills him. Doubt gnaws at Joe. He can't tell if what they're doing is right, but at least they've already sprung into action. Back in the arena, the two are still trading savage blows, neither willing to yield. Mujin smirks, totally unbothered. Dobo's nothing but a rookie in his eyes. They slam into each other, trading blow after blow, and for a heart-stopping moment they seem perfectly matched. Some insist Mujin already holds the upper hand. Whispers blew up into jeers as people began trashing Mujin, flat out calling him overrated and unimpressive. Dobo unleashes a devastating blast aimed dead on at Mujin. Do and Sok reel, breath stolen, as the attack streaks straight for Mujin. All they can do is pray he actually dodges. Realizing Dobo's onto him, Mujin unleashes the peerless Nine Swords first form, the preemptive step. Dobo's blow connects, but Mujin's signature technique snaps into place and swallows the hit whole. Shock slammed into the crowd, pinning them silent. Even Dobo reels, jaw-dropping as disbelief floods his expression. He's shoved backward, reeling as he's forced to retreat. It hit them. Mujin was spiraling into madness. Dobo roars, funneling every ounce of inner energy into a blazing core, ready to unleash one final earth-shattering strike. Mujin sneers, taunting that his inner energy is gathering at a pitiful crawl. Mujin unleashed his technique's second form. He hurtled at Dobo, malice burning in his veins. Dobo feels it and can only hurl up a desperate block, colliding with Mujin in a savage struggle. Disbelief ripped through him. He couldn't fathom losing to Mujin. Dobo digs deep and hurls every ounce of his strength into blocking Mujin's attack. In a heartbeat, his sword splinters into a shower of razor shards before his very eyes. Mujin's sword ripped clean through. He tore into Dobo with a savage, bone-shattering slash. Dobo is slammed into the ground while Toyon's frustration boils over. He rips a raw scream into the air, howling, "Dobo!" Dobo slumps in a crimson pool of his own blood, his right arm gone. The rules snap shut and Mujin's victory is sealed. He wins the duel by default. Mujin storms over, seizes Dobo's arm, and snarls he'll be taking it with him as payment for the 17 years of grudge. Choyun reels, jaw-dropping and breath stolen as the words slam into her. Mujin's betting the merchant crew might just pull off reattaching his arm. Han catapults off his perch and hurtles over to check on Dobo. Choyun rockets at them and Han snaps, "Dobo's energy core's been shattered too." Han's glare pins Mujin as he snaps, "Did you really have to go that far?" Mujin blinks, playing confused, and shoots back, "What do you mean by that?" Han sneered. The skill gap was glaring. The fight had been over ages ago, and Mujin snapped back that his big mouth meant he had plenty to say. Mujin barked. Was it really necessary to slam the 7-wound fist into the head of a 5-year-old who has no martial arts training? Rage seared Mujin's eyes as he spat at Han. What I just did was the final strike to a grudge I've nursed for 17 years. Mujin snarled that those who wronged the Hua clan would start paying for everything, malice oozing from his voice as he barked at Han and his subordinates to brace themselves. Choyon slams to her knees, agony ripping through her. She swore, rage boiling in her veins, that she'd never forget what Mujin had just done. Mujin strides off the stage as the crowd erupts into thunderous cheers for his victory, stunned by how he utterly crushed Dobo. They drank in the breathtaking sights, then realized the sword he'd wielded before was one none of them had ever seen. Excitement exploded. A new martial arts master had been born. Du and Sok bolted to meet Mujin. He bellows, "Time to head back home!" He strides away, then whips around and snaps, "Do! Did you spend every last coin of the gold I entrusted to you?" Du stammers, "There's still a little of it left." Mujin admits he might have to swing by the Bangho sect to borrow money. He spins on Do and roars he doesn't care if he, Joe, and the other martial artists want to leave. He pins him with a furious stare and vows that anyone who tries to take his siblings will face devastating consequences. He snarls the line, killing intent pouring off him so fierce it almost cripples Du where he stands. His siblings are already screaming at Joe. Livid, he yanked them away right as their brother's duel kicked off. Joe rips open the letter the pigeon just delivered, his blood running cold as the words tell him they're done for. Mujin had somehow won the fight. Du scribbled in the letter that they'd been discovered and pleaded for him to rush back to the house. Joe sprang onto his bike and tore home in terror while the kids whooped, insisting they wanted to go back to see their brother. Mujin locks eyes with Du and snarls, "It's time you take on the Bangho sect." He yanks Do Not Close and snaps that he shouldn't worry about a thing, even though Mujin is now considered capable. Du snarls, warning him to never let himself get entangled with that social sect in any way. Seeing the old man's worry spiral, Mujin snaps, "I won't." Mujin charges out to meet the Bangho sect, and Sok's gut churns. He fears it will spiral into disaster. Mujin snapped he couldn't stall another second and barked for Sok to stick to his heels. Moments later, Mujin burst into the Bangho sect. The mob froze, jaws dropping. He never thought he'd see Mujin again. Mujin declares to Ma he's here to repay every debt he owes. They taunted Ma, grinning as their sect stood empty like a ghost town. Ma scrambles to hide their loss, claiming most gamblers deserted the region just to watch his duel with Dobo. Because he boasted everyone showed up to watch him fight, Mujin snapped, "Did you run betting pools on your match?" Mujin's dead certain they tipped the odds his way, and that stunt would have shoved a mountain of cash into their pockets. Cash lands in their hands and Mujin pounces, his interest blazing, and Ma already knows he's gearing up to milk them dry. Ma snaps that they'll go thank him, a swift promise meant to keep any trouble with him at bay. Mujin's grin widens. Of course he's pleased. Say money, and everyone perks up. Ma's senses flare as an ice-cold aura pours from Mujin, pure killing intent. And Mujin snaps at Ma, demanding to know about his boss. Shaxma lunged, eyes razor-sharp, demanding to know why he wanted to learn where their boss is. Mujin slams his hand onto the table, glares at Ma and snaps, "I get pissed when I have to ask a question more than once." Mujin is seconds from going berserk when Chaiwoon Gil, the sect's leader, strides into the room. Mujin's jaw dropped when a grotesque face loomed before him. The shock hit hard. That ugly stranger was the sect's leader. Chi admits his boys already briefed him on Mujin. Mujin snaps, "Why's it so hard for you to see me?" and sneers that Che's face is ugly. Right behind Che stands an intriguing figure. Mujin snapped, "Is that your servant?" Pure malice spilled from the man like a black tide. Boom. He's Death Black Crow of the social sect. He snaps at Mujin for daring to eye his money, and despite being warned to avoid the social sect, Mujin finds himself helplessly staring. Mujin snarled, "Shut your mouth if you want to keep breathing." Black Crow rockets at Mujin, rage burning in its eyes and talons primed to rip him apart. And this slams into Sok, leaving paralyzing fear in its wake. Mujin scoffs. Black Crow is no threat. He's dead set on crushing anyone who stands in his way. Mujin hurled a chopstick straight at Black Crow. A surge of raw power explodes and punches a hole clean through his hand. A cold truth hits Black Crow. Mujin isn't ordinary, and Black Crow has to treat him like a real threat. Mujin snarls at Black Crow, "I won't accept a compliment from trash like you." Rage boils in Black Crow. He bolts straight at Mujin, charging him again. This time, Mujin chooses to meet him halfway, and bolts straight toward him. He blinks out of existence right before his eyes, then materializes behind him, sending a bolt of shock through him. Black Crow unleashes a frantic barrage of fists at Mujin, but Mujin slips through every blow with effortless, mocking ease. He toyed with him, flaunting it for all to see. Disbelief rips through Black Crow. Mujin, barely a kid, is dodging his attacks. Mujin decides to make one more hole in Black Crow, then plunges a chopstick into his left eye. Agony rips through him, and his scream terrifies everyone watching. Black Crow crumples to his knees and spits the B word at Mujin. They threatened him. The social sect will hunt him down for attacking one of their members. Thirsting to test the sect's strength, Mujin boots Black Crow in the skull and snarls for him to urge the social sect to come at him with everything they've got. Before the sect storms in, Mujin locks eyes with Black Crow and snarls that he won't be leaving this room alive. Black Crow collapses to his knees, voice cracking as he begs Mujin, vowing to hand over anything Mujin wants if Mujin spares his life. Mujin reels at Black Crow's desperate will to survive, and when the crow dangles piles of wealth, Mujin pulls back and refuses to send him to the afterlife. Black Crow snarled he'd sunk every scrap of his fortune into Chong, and swore he'd claw it all back. Mujin steels himself to take the deal, but the man snarls that he'll be a dead man if he doesn't return with the money. Dread surges through him and he bolts, vowing to be back as fast as he can. After demolishing the Black Crow, he whips to Che, who's already pissing all over himself. He locked eyes with him and snarled, "It's time we settle this debt." Che collapses to his knees, clawing the dirt and begging to be spared, vowing to pour every last ounce of himself into it. Mujin cracks a cold laugh, glares at Che, and snaps that he has nothing to offer. His properties already belong to him. Confusion flashes across Che's face as Mujin snaps that he must tally the money he bled from commoners and the lives he shattered by puppeteering the martial clans, using that sum to offset his assets. Tears blurring his vision, Che swears he'll give Mujin everything. This sets Mujin ablaze with fury. He shatters Che's brain. He slammed the truth into him. He can't give him what he already has. Fear rips through every viewer. Mujin whirls at them, demanding who comes after him in the command line. Ma lunges forward and proclaims he's the vice sect leader. He collapses to his knees, begging for mercy, and swearing to Mujin he'll live honestly if given another chance. He begged with raw sincerity. Mujin's resolve cracked, and he spared his life. Mujin snapped for Che's price, and Ma started with his house, declaring everything totaled 4,000 gold. Bungho's coffers bulged with roughly 10,000 gold, and the Sozal sect tossed in a 500 gold tribute. Add it all up and the hall explodes past 20,000 gold. Mujin proclaims he wants everything to come to him. Ma vows to ready everything and race it to him. Mujin's face lights up. He wants it handled immediately. Once Ma is gone, Mujin pins the other sect officers with a murderous glare and snarls that they should start bargaining for their lives. Shock rips through them as he snarls that Ma is the only person he promised to spare. Panic engulfs them, and they start begging to be spared. Moments later, Mujin storms in dragging box after box brimming with treasure and wads of cash, and Do freezes, jaw-dropping. He leans in, voice sharp, and declares to Do that every box contains about 400 gold. Do snaps at Mujin, warning that the Bangho sect answers to the Sozal sect. But the real danger isn't Sozal, it's who stands with them. A terrifying force called Jusugang. Do roars that the sect shelters both the Black Crow and the Red Crow. The instant Black Crow slices the silence, Mujin snaps at Do. "I've already taken care of him." These shocks strike. Mujin snarled, "Don't you dare put him on the same level as him or Joe. Anyone who comes to cause trouble for the clan ends up 6 feet under." When he's finished speaking, he snaps at Do to fetch him beef and commands that his siblings be fed the instant they return. Mujin spins on his heel to leave, and Do gapes. He can't believe Mujin has already driven fear into Black Crow, the region's infamous menace. Do's jaw drops. Mujin is a different man now, unrecognizable from the person he once knew. Choyan has unleashed cold-blooded assassins to wipe out everything Mujin holds dear. She snarled, "Bring one of the kids back alive." Long ago, the Flamehua clan blazed into greatness. Powerful, feared, and respected across the land. The Flame Emperor set countless martial artists ablaze with awe. Warriors hung on his every move, and even the prestigious Tang clan of Sichuan hailed him. In a single generation, the Flamehua clan blazed into a martial juggernaut no one could ignore. Peak martial artists even flinched at the Flamehua clan. There was a time Sicheng erupted into cheers whenever a clan member strode through the streets. After the Flame Emperor died, the next patriarch stepped in and unmasked himself as utter trash. The Flamethrower clan steadily crumbled as its once loyal members abandoned the family and slipped away one by one. The Emperor's image shattered into two: those who remember and those who don't. And one truth refuses to fade: he is an extraordinary man. When Mujin strode, his aura blazed like thunder, and the elders couldn't stop comparing him to the late emperor. Soon afterward, bloodied warriors stagger in, screaming that assassins ambush them. Elder Joe and a ragged band of warriors are the only ones holding off the assassins. The moment Doe hears it, dread hits him. He knows the two young ones are in danger. He barked to the warriors to alert Mujin at once, then tore ahead of him. In the forest, Joe rockets into battle against the assassins, his warriors already laid low. As danger bears down, he plants himself like a living fortress, every breath and heartbeat primed to protect the kids. Right when he's teetering on the brink of being crushed, Doe bursts in at the last second, yanking him to safety and igniting the assassin's fury. They were a heartbeat from completing their mission. Before Doe burst onto the scene, the assassin leader roars, hurling an order at his men. "Take those two down!" The clash explodes anew. Another savage round of battle rages. Doe lands a few savage blows in a lightning-fast clash with the assassins, but old age creeps in, robs him of his edge, and the assassins pounce, seizing the upper hand. Before he can even blink, a blade rips across his shoulder. A brutal shove threw him backwards. One assassin completes his mission and snarls at his comrades to kill one of the kids. He bulldozes Doe backward, forcing him onto the defensive. Doe plants his feet and refuses to back down. A savage cut rips into Doe. He explodes into a raw, guttural scream of pain. Doe crumples to the ground, powerless to protect himself or the children, and the assassins zero in on the kids, sneering and demanding which one they'll kill and which they'll spare. Powerless, Dojin plants his feet like a cliff and shields his sister, refusing to back down. The assassins single him out for death. Just as their blades descend to cut Dojin down, Mujin's voice shattered the forest silence, booming for them to freeze in their tracks. Menace oozes from him as he rockets toward them, closing the distance in an instant. The assassins sneer unfazed. They've already written Mujin off as trash. The assassin leader snarled, barking the command to kill Mujin. Mujin had dared to get in their way. An assassin rockets at Mujin. Mujin zeroes his wrath on him and strikes him down first. He snapped the dude's sword like a twig with a lazy twist before. He rocketed up and drove a brutal vertical strike straight down, cleaving the dude cleanly in half. He darts past the dude without wasting a beat, and charges straight at the remaining assassins. The moment they see how unhinged he is, the leader of the assassins barks for his men to close ranks and bring Mujin down at once. The group surges forward to swarm him, but before they can close the distance, Mujin roars and unleashes the Peerless Nine Swords' fifth form, the Army Slayer technique. He cleaves through every last one of them like they're nothing but tissue. One of them lunges to catch Mujin off guard, but Mujin sidesteps the blow effortlessly before he ripped Dutt's head clean from his shoulders. Realization slams into the surviving assassin. They're not facing a human anymore. They're facing a monster. Before he can even react, a brutal force rips his right arm from his body and he howls in searing pain. Mujin snarled, "Don't make another move if you want to keep breathing." Mujin spun around and caught Joe hunched at the counter, his hands frantically coaxing the dough up. Dojin clamps his hands over his sister's eyes, desperate to shield her from the carnage erupting before them. Dojin grabs his sister's hand, voice fierce. "We're safe." Mujin burst in and crushed every last bad guy. Mujin storms up to the pair and asks if they're okay. Dojin assures him they're fine, and Mujin says they must have been terrified. Dojin cut him off, denying it and roaring that he's the son of a martial master. Relief surged through Mujin when he heard it, and he ruffled the boy's hair with a proud pat to salute his bravery. He snaps at Elder Joe, ordering him to escort the wounded warriors and his siblings straight back to the estate. As the group fades away, Mujin spins on the last assassin and snarls that he'd better never breathe a word about his chopped-off arm. Mujin's eyes locked on him as he barked, "Were you sent by the Cheonghua merchant group?" His words catch in his throat, and Mujin snarls he might spare his life if he answers honestly. Those words snap the assassin to attention. Curiosity ignites in his veins. He rips the truth open. Choyan hired them through the Death Forest faction. After dumping everything on Mujin, he snaps, "Are you actually going to let me go like you said?" Mujin then barks for him to sprint back to Choyan and tell her he's wiped out the group she sent after his siblings, and to throw down one chilling promise. He's coming for her head next. Later, every gaze snaps to Mujin. He staggers down the street, every inch of him soaked in blood. Anyone who once sneered at him now kept their mouths shut. One wrong move and they'd be his next victim. You can feel the buzz. Everyone's dying to know if the prodigy they knew as a kid has finally come back. Once he'd siphoned enough aura from the street, Mujin storms back home at last, crashing into the solemn hush of the mass. They sprint over to welcome him. Mujin snaps his head aside. He snaps at Masak. "Are all the wounded in the medicine hall?" Masak shoots back a curt yes, and adds that Dojin and his sister are resting in their chambers to regain their strength. Relief flooded Mujin. He grinned and barked at Masak to draw him a hot bath. Moments later, Mujin plunges into the steaming bath he prepared for himself. letting the warmth swallow him. Soaking in the tub, his thoughts snap to his siblings, a fierce vow flaring. He'll shield them from the world's darkness. Born into a martial clan, they're still children, and Mugen flat out refuses to let cruelty touch them while they're young. And yet, at that exact moment, he's haunted by the thought he's hurling his old fear at them. The next day at the medicine hall, Mugen storms up to Elder Joe and fires off questions about the Red Flame art manual. When he hears this, shock explodes across Joe's face. His eyes go wide, and Mugen steps forward and snaps, "Why are you so startled?" Joe snaps, eyes locked on him. "Why are you asking for the manual?" Mugen's gut clenches as he realizes Joe is terrified he'll relapse and tear everything apart. And Joe snaps, "That's not my reason." Mugen declares he'll train alone now that Joe's out of commission. Mugen spots the doubt flickering in Joe's eyes, but Joe snaps his jaw shut and refuses to admit it. Mugen grins and tells Joe to relax. He swears he won't throw a fit. Realizing Mugen means no harm, Joe finally thrusts the manual into his hands. The instant Mugen vanished, Joe's worry burst out as he demanded if he'd made a terrible mistake handing Mugen the manual. And Joe just shrugged, saying not to worry. Mugen's been swinging with razor-sharp swordsmanship lately. Do insists they survived the assassination only because Mugen stepped in. He says Mugen appears cured, and he's convinced the Taoist's treatment is working. Joe admits the treatment's working, but one thrilling thought claws at him. Has it been turbocharging his martial arts skills? Mugen's sudden surge in power demands attention. He's convinced a single fateful encounter is the only thing that could explain it. Hope surged through Joe. He knew the clan's long decline was finally coming to an end. Mugen summons his siblings to the training ground and drills them mercilessly. Mugen explains the whole training to them, eyes blazing as he orders them to move like water, smooth, precise, and unstoppable. He unveils a foundational movement technique he forged in the crucible of countless real battles, and the two of them go silent, eyes wide with awe. Soyen cuts in, eyes blazing with shock. Elder Joe actually claimed Mugen has no real combat experience, and Dojin reels. He can't believe his sister is bluntly calling out the truth. Mugen cuts off the boring chatter and dares the two to come at him with the basic fist technique they just learned. The two snap into a dramatic pose. They pounce on Mugen at the exact same moment. Their clumsy movements fumble his hopes, and Mugen's excitement collapses into cold disappointment. Their display hit Mugen like a slap, doubt sparking. Were these two really from a martial clan? He knows instantly. The two can't even muster the most basic movements. This isn't martial arts. They seethed, furious at the dismal showing they kept putting on. He barks, "Stop!" He slams a hand to his temple and orders them to stop training for the day, saying his head hurts, while the two stare, dumbfounded that he's claiming a headache when they didn't even touch his head. Mugen lies, claiming the two are far more skilled than he'd thought, then orders them to do only one thing for now: forge their bodies before they learn any advanced techniques. The instant the two vanish, Mugen's eyes snap wide. It's a colossal task staring him down, and it's not going to be easy. Guilt sears him as he finally sees the brutal sacrifices his master endured to train him, and Mugen vows to rebuild the clan's glory. He will undo the ruin his own hands unleashed. Mugen hunts the one opponent who bested him in his past life, determined to finally defeat them. Mugen unsheathes his sword and plunges into brutal solo training, and he watches, stunned, as the sword suddenly turns feather-light in his hand. He suddenly realizes his speed is surging. His movements snap into blinding motion. With every repetition of the sword forms, his strikes carved closer to perfection. Days later, Du and Joe thunder back into duty. Masak snaps, "We've done every single thing you asked." He lauded them for a job well done, but Masak still hungered for more. Mugen roared, slamming into him the truth. Had he arrived even moments later, they'd all be dead, and fixed the elders with a lethal glare, warning bluntly, "Pull that stunt again, and you'll die." They both crash into low bows before Mugen, choking out apologies as they own up to their foolishness. Moments later, the Taoist who'd treated Mugendu Yongsu reappeared, stepping forward with quiet purpose. Mugen stares into himself and finds a stranger. He doesn't know who he is. He'd already ripped into him when Mesa cut in. "That's the Taoist who treated me." Masa drops to his knees before the old man, voice urgent. "I'm sorry. Mugen hasn't fully recovered. That's why he's been acting like this." Mugen boots him off the spot the instant he mouths off about him. Mugen feigns ignorance, drops into a quick bow, and blurts to the old man, "Sorry, I didn't recognize you." Mugen seizes the man's arm and implores him to follow, certain the long journey has left him utterly exhausted. A few days earlier, Masak had pulled Mugen aside and insisted the Taoist priest had inherited the Wudang sect's lineage, swearing the priest's positive energy healing had restored Mugen, and blurting that the chief steward had paid a massive sum to summon him. Now, in the present day, relief surges through Mugen. He's finally meeting the man, so he strides forward and beckons him into the compound. Mujin leans in, eyes razor-sharp, and demands, "Is it true you inherited the Wudang sect's Taoist lineage?" Yang Su smirks, exuding cool, and proclaims he's the lone Taoist who inherited the very essence of the Wudang sect's true lineage. The instant Mujin hears it, he stomps his feet and fires a question at him. "I'm dead serious. If he's really the Wudang White Immortal, then tell me how. Because I've never heard of a single living successor of Wudang's Taoist line." Yongsu plays the fool, but Mujin snaps that he's got a sliver of time to confess before he flips his decision. The Taoist swears he's innocent and fires back. "Are you doubting the very hand that healed you?" Mujin snaps his colossal sword free in a heartbeat. He sneers at Yongsu, daring him. "You call yourself a Taoist? Dodge this strike without breaking a sweat." Mujin's sword screamed down, a hair from cleaving the old man in two, but the strike slams into the floor, gouging a massive dent, and Masik and the elders explode into panic, certain he's gone mad. Mujin barked at the trio to clam up and fetch him water. He was about to unveil something hilarious. The instant the water rushes in, Mujin drenches Yongsu with it. Yongsu stubbornly plays dumb. Fury burns in his voice as he snarls at Mujin. "Is this how the clan repays kindness?" Mujin pays him no mind, snatches his long beard, and with one savage yank it rips free. He sent shockwaves through Maysok, leaving the elders frozen in stunned silence. Even Young Su's stomach dropped when they discovered his fake beard. He knew he was screwed. Mujin sneered, mocking him for even trying his hardest to glue the beard on so carefully. In a heartbeat, Yang Su is forced to take orders from Mujin and his retainers. Maysak leans in, voice razor-sharp, and snaps, "What are you going to do to that dude?" Mujin snarls he won't let Yang Su go, threatens to sever his limbs and turn him into a eunuch, and Yang Su's panic explodes as he drops to his knees, frantically begging Mujin to spare him. Mujin sneers, promising not to kill him. Dead men can't repay debts. He only intends to sever his limbs. Yang Su collapses, panic ripping through him as he begs Mujin to spare his limbs and leave his body intact. Yang Su vowed to return every penny he'd swindled. Mujin accepted the deal but warned he'd add a charge for sparing his limbs and manhood. Terrified for his body, Yang Su said he'd pay any price if Mujin left him whole. Mujin demanded to know how much the man had taken from him, and Dole blurted that he'd paid 50 gold Nyan coins. Mujin hears it and scowls, disappointment flaring as he sneers at how gullible Du was to fall into Youngsu's scam. Du fired back that he'd heard Youngsu was a great healer. Mujin pivots to Yang Su and snaps that the first thing he'll do is return the 50 gold. Yang Su insists he'll repay it too, but the coins are back at his residence in Jinyang. Mujin wastes no time. He snaps for him to take point and lead them to Jinyang, 4 hours away. Du and Zhou blurt out that they want to come along, but Mujin waves them off. "No need. You're still recovering." He implores them to stay holed up at home and snuff out any hint of trouble. As he leaves with Youngsu, Zhou's worry tightens into a fist around his heart. He grabs his arm, urgency sparking in his eyes, and pleads, "Trust the dude on this, because the man he once was has vanished." Moments later, they barrel up to Youngsu's carriage, already waiting. Mujin freezes, shock slamming into him. Feast your eyes on the lavish carriage he's parading in. It screams just how insanely successful his scamming business has become. Mujin steps into the carriage and his jaw drops. He's even more stunned by the lavish, over-the-top decorations swallowing every inch. Inside, cotton cradles every seam and leather crowns the finish. Yang Su declares it flawless. He's always on the road, so comfort is non-negotiable. Mujin smirks, taunting that Yang Su, a cook of all people, has an iron work ethic, and snaps, "Why aren't you doing honest work if you're a professional?" Yang Su bows his head to Mujin and vows he'll go legit from this moment on. Mujin crashes onto the bed, folding into comfort, and tells the old man he needs to sleep. He asks to be roused the moment they reach their destination. Youngsu accepts the order and vows to jolt Mujin awake the instant they arrive. A cold rage coils in Youngsu. He can barely wait to make Mujin pay and show him exactly what happens to anyone who crosses him. The carriage hurtled away, and after a few hours of rattling down the road, they slip into a dead-silent secret pocket of the forest. Youngsu stepped out of the carriage, his arrival cracking the silence. You run into a familiar face, and your heart drops when they're staring back in full bandit garb. He snarled to the man that Mujin lay fast asleep in the carriage, then barked at the bandit to drag him out and make an example of him. The big guy practically crackled with excitement, itching to get started. He can't fathom why anyone would dare meddle in a Taoist's affairs. The big guy barrels into the carriage and fires a savage punch straight at Mujin. At the last heartbeat before impact, Mujin whips around and drives his sword up to block the punch. Mujin's grin turns razor sharp as he taunts, "Have they arrived already?" Mujin sneered, disgust blazing as he glared up at the guy looming above him. He blasted him out of the carrot, rocketing him through the air. Yongsu shocks. The bandit convulses as Mujin's blow crawls through his bones, and he snaps into deadly focus. The claim that Mujin is impressive isn't false. Mujin eased out of the carriage and snapped at Yongsu. When did our destination turn into an isolated forest? Mujin's heart slammed into his ribs when he realized the Taoist had him in their sights too. He'd convinced himself he was just a scammer, then unearthed the other schemes he'd been running. Mujin smirks and brushes it off. No offense taken. He'd been itching for a fight all along. Mujin erupts with a suffocating aura and snarls, "Let's see what you're made of." The big guy flinches as the crushing pressure bears down on him. He bellows, summoning the rest of his gang into the open to tear Mujin down with him. 3 other hulking figures burst out of their hiding spots. They're unmasked as Zhongshan's 4 demons. Mujin's gaze snaps to them. Demonic energy crackles from their forms, and he says nothing. Mujin sweeps his gaze over their assorted weapons and challenges them to prove the true depth of their skills. Mujin explodes into motion, lunging full speed at the leader of the team. He shoves him away from his teammates. He bulldozes him onto the defensive, unleashing a relentless barrage of strikes. The rest of the team spots Mujin zeroed in on just the dude, and they surge into action to back him up. Even the guy being attacked reels from Mujin's bone-shattering strikes. He likens his strikes to the crushing swing of a heavy mace. Moments later, his footing betrays him, and Mujin drives a savage kick into his face, crushing his mouth. Just then, the rest of the team thundered in, slamming the gap shut. The nearest attacker swung his axe in a savage arc to cleave Mujin's head, but Mujin slipped cleanly out of the blade's path. He slams a brutal elbow into his belly, sending the dude howling in searing agony. The other 2 surge from both flanks, trying to sandwich Mujin in a crushing pincer and topple him. He sidesteps, baiting both into overreaching and leaving their arms overextended. A split-second gap opens, and Mujin's fist rockets through it, sending one of them crashing to the ground. Mujin rockets after the last opponent, and the dude throws up a desperate block to meet Mujin's attack with his. It explodes into a spray of glittering shards right before his eyes. Mujin's blade screams inches from cleaving the man, but he halts it mid-swing. The man's whole life explodes before his eyes, and he's still trembling from it. Mujin drives a brutal kick into his chest and rockets him skyward. With this, Mujin fells all 4. He drives them to their knees, choking, each ragged breath a desperate battle. In the heat of battle, he realized with cold certainty that they were wielding demonic arts. A burning question claws at him. How did demonic arts take root in the Central Plains? Mujin sees them as his juniors. He refuses to be the hand that kills them. He's frozen, weighing his next move when the team leader screams to Mujin that they surrender. Then he drops to his knees, begging Mujin to spare them. In that instant, Yongsu's world tilted. He knew he was done, because Mujin had obliterated Zhongshan's 4 demons with brutal ease. The team leader admits they realized Mujin outclassed them in the first few moves, and Mujin snaps, "Why'd you keep messing around when you already knew?" Mujin grins coldly and vows to spare them. Then snarls he'll crush their energy cores and sever their meridians. The instant those words land, the team leader crumples to his knees and they fling themselves at Mujin's feet, voices cracking as they beg him not to shred their lives as martial artists. "We only did what we were told." Mujin snaps at the guy, barking for him to stop whining. They're already old enough. Mujin slams the question, "Who taught you?" And the guy instantly throws on a clueless face. Mujin demanded their master's name. He could clearly see they were channeling pathetic demonic energy and burned to know who taught them the demonic arts. The team leader drops the bomb. They don't even know his name. Rage boiled in Mujin when he heard they were a bunch of useless disciples who didn't even know their master's name. The team leader swallowed and confessed their master had never told them his name, then warned them not to go looking for his other disciples. Mujin scoffs that they should have just kept their heads down and honed trash martial arts instead of turning to banditry. The team leader snaps, slicing through Mujin's accusation. "We're not thieves. We only lent a hand with our brother's side business." Mujin's jaw snapped shut and he exploded at them, berating them for helping him despite knowing Yongsu's business. Then the team leader stepped up and confessed they'd thought he'd been saving lives. Mujin spares them, snarling that they must stop being Yongsu's lackeys and vowing to kill anyone he catches doing wrong again. And the team leader gratefully thanks him for his mercy. Mujin spins to Yongsu and snarls that the bill just jumped. Yongsu will pay for tormenting Mujin's mind, and he goes pale with horror. The moment the carriage vanishes into the distance, the 4 brothers jolt awake as realization rips through them. Mujin is worthy to be their master. The 4 bolt after the carriage and slam it to a screeching halt. Mujin's eyes snap to the stalled carriage, questions sparking in his mind. Why had it stopped? He bursts out to find them bowing low and shouting, "Boss!" All four drop to their knees, laying their lives at his feet and swearing to serve him until their last breath, beseeching Mugen to take them in. Mugen, convinced his blows have left the four writhing in agony, tries to toss them aside. The four erupted into thunderous roars, demanding he take them under his wing, their cries revealing they're still quite young. Mugen's jaw drops. He'd written the four off as old men, their ugly faces fooling him, and the truth hits him like a sucker punch. Mugen snaps, jaw clenched, that the four can't be younger than him. He's 23. Mugen snaps, suffered an energy deviation or something? And the leader of the four reels, dumbfounded because they'd expected Mugen to just take their youth at face value. Mugen reels, incredulous that demonic arts users rose to become warriors of the orthodox sect's ruined households. It flat out defies logic. Chialmuk, the 21-year-old eldest, declares to Mugen, just like his master taught, that being a demonic arts user is a way of life, not a faction or affiliation, while the youngest, only 18, stares at Mugen, no suck. Mugen snaps a nod at Chill's point, then asks, what orthodox family would accept demonic arts users when they just get dragged into scandal? Dongji OK, 20, barges in and snarls at Mugen that nobody would dare say that. They'd only end up with their heads bashed in, and his 19-year-old brother Jungtai jumps in to back him up. Mugen snaps, want to serve in a household? Then obey every single order he gives. They roared as one, shouting they'd devote themselves to him. Sick of their screams, Mugen grits his teeth and finally spits the words at the brothers. You're now warriors of the Flamehua clan. Moments later, they reached Yongsu's sprawling mansion. He throws the door wide and beckons them into the house. The servants gape at the strange faces twisting his features and blurt out what's happened. Yongsu snaps for them to prepare food in the attic. Mugen snapped, forget the food, to the treasure room now. Yongsu nodded and sprinted ahead to lead them there. His servants froze, terror clawing at their throats, nearly soiling themselves as the four demons' terrifying presence swallowed the room. Mugen's jaw drops as Yongsu basks in luxury bought with years of swindled cash. They slam into a warrior named Sojin, who fixes Yongsu with a cold stare and snaps, is there a problem? Yongsu bolts over, insisting there's nothing wrong and pushing him back into the house. But Sojin plants his feet and demands Yongsu tell him whatever's wrong with him. Mugen barges in, sneering at Sojin. Why do you keep shoving your nose into other people's business after they told you to leave? I can see plain as day you're Yongsu's guest. He stepped back. Guests aren't supposed to meddle in household affairs. Sojin sneered at Mugen and spat. You've got a huge mouth! Chilmuk tenses to leap in and take Sojin down, but Yongsu pleads for restraint. It's all a misunderstanding. Yongsu barks at Sojin to stand down, then storms forward and thrusts Mugen and the four into view, declaring to Sojin that they are his guests. Sojin doesn't back down. He cranks his rudeness up the moment he learns Mugen is the master of the Flamehua clan. But Mugen shrugs him off, and, whenever Sojin's done trash-talking, coolly tells him to move aside. Mugen was about to walk past when Sojin cut him off, snarling that he should be ashamed for running with demonic users and terrorizing commoners, that his grandfather would be weeping in his grave, and he still doesn't stop there. He sneers and hurls pathetic trash at Mugen too. Even Yongsu snaps, roaring at Sojin for pushing things way too far. But Sojin fired a cocky grin at Yongsu and vowed he's a pro who'd never lose to scum like Mu. The engine screamed to life. Right then, one brother snaps his blade free and surges forward to face Sojin head-on. He implored Mugen for permission. Mugen flashed a calm grin and declared, don't worry, I'll handle this myself. He catapults himself into the plane arena. He begged Sojin to join him. Jin explodes into motion, excitement crackling as he carries it out. Sojin rockets at Mugen, muscles coiled and blade aimed to impale him. Mugen slams his colossal sword up, meets the strike head-on, and stops it dead. He praises his swordplay, then slams him with the brutal truth. He lacks the strength. Mugen relentlessly toys with Sojin, daring her to snap. Before he knows it, savage vibrations slam into Sojin's sword, rattling it in his hands. The four demons lock onto him, and grim certainty floods them. It's over for the dude. Mugen has him cornered. They shout the sword's about to snap. If it doesn't, his skull will shatter. Right on cue, Sojin's sword snaps and explodes into a spray of shards. A wicked grin twists across Mugen's face just before he slammed the dude into the wall. The four demons didn't flinch, they'd seen it coming. Mugen snaps, ordering one of them to hurl his iron club straight to him, since he snarls at Mugen that his grandfather would be weeping from beyond the grave. Mugen growled that he'd personally bring him to his grandfather, no matter what. Mugen explodes forward, pummeling the dude until he collapses. His screams rattled the entire house. The four stare, mouths gaping, as Mugen crushes the guy with humiliating, laughable ease. Panic explodes in Yang Su when he sees Sojin teetering on death. He barrels over to Mujin, begging him to spare Sojin and swearing he'll pay for his life. Young Su barked that Sojin's tangled with the unorthodox martial heavens, and letting that dude die under his roof would be catastrophic. Yang Su vows to Mujin he'll pay whatever it takes to keep Sojin alive. Mujin flashes a sly grin and jabs that he thought Yang Su had pinned all his hopes on Sojin. Moments later they burst into the treasure room, and Mujin lets out a low whistle at just how outrageously rich Yang Su is. Mujin wastes no time. He snaps everyone into action, demanding they start calculating everything and prices each of the 4 demons' lives at 500 gold coins. Yang Su's jaw dropped. Mujin agreed to take the 4 into the clan, but then demanded Yang Su pay for their lives and coldly named the price. 200 gold for limbs, 300 gold for a life. Mujin snarled at Yang Su, declaring that Sojin's life, for being outrageously rude, was worth only 1,000 gold, then vowed he'd pay 3,000 gold for his psychological damage. Mujin finishes crunching the numbers, then bluntly demands every last thing the man owns and snaps, "Any objections?" Yang Su chokes out no, tears streaking his cheeks. Mujin is worse than any bandit. In a flash, the 4 dive into the loot, cramming every bill in the room into bags. Mujin's gaze snaps to a folding screen propped in the corner. He freezes as a strange humming aura oozes from the screen. Yang Su's gaze snaps to Mujin. He's glued to the screen. Yang Su throws the question at him. "Do you like the screen?" And Mujin hesitates, then admits, "I'm not sure." Yang Su jabbed at the folding screen and declared it the handiwork of Master Jang So-san. Yang Su offers the screen to Mujin. Mujin snaps it up without a second thought, and Yang Su reels at how shamelessly greedy he is. The instant they heave the last chest into Yang Su's carriage, Mujin strides forward and claims the carriage, convinced Yang Su won't need it again. Yang Su just shrugs and tells him to take it. Mujin and the 4 demons thunder off, mounts pounding as they vanish into the dust. While Mujin's voice booms, he orders Yang Su to ensure he lives a righteous life. Mujin vows they'll meet again, while Yang Su prays they never cross paths. Mujin has ripped away everything he had. Yang Su reels, asking himself what awful mistake forced him to stumble into the path of a lunatic like Mujin. They finally reach Hokeland Manor and Masshawk snaps, panic ripping through him. He grills Mujin, demanding where every last bill came from. He's convinced Mujin killed for it. Mujin swore he hadn't killed for the money, then pressed him to keep it. "Our funds are running on empty." Mujin leans in, eyes razor sharp, and snaps at Massak. "Do the 4 demon brothers look old to you?" Massak snaps that, from everything he's seen, they're well past 40 years. And Mujin's grin flares as he says he'll go tell the 4 of them. Mujin snapped, "Where are Joe and Du? I haven't seen them since I got back." Messak's face dropped as he realized they were hosting important guests in the reception hall, and he blurted that they'd told him to fetch Mujin the moment he returned. Mujin's jaw snaps shut at the word guests, and he instantly smells a new scammer. Massak cuts him off, flat out saying he's wrong and ordering him not to lay a hand on them. Mujin storms into the reception hall, every step a drumbeat announcing his arrival. The elders beamed and thrust him into the presence of the 3 merchant captains who've backed the clan through its darkest hours. The first merchant leader strides forward and booms, "I'm Peng Quan-o, leader of the Pengyang Merchant Group." Second blasts in, Dong Guanyu, the commanding leader of the Muryong Merchant Union. Third steps forward, Huang Yukyong, the master of Golden Finance Manor. The trio explodes with joy as Mujin snaps back to full health, and Mujin lights up, matching their cheer with a wide, grateful grin. Minutes raced by as they traded razor-sharp insights over steaming cups of tea. Mujin hurls the question at them. "Are you here to collect the clan's debts?" And the trio reels, stunned into silence. They approached Mujin and told him bluntly they weren't there to squeeze him for repayment. They'd come only to congratulate him after hearing he'd awakened, and they apologized if their visit had made him uncomfortable. Mujin locks eyes with the trio, gratitude roaring in his chest as he vows to see their repayment through, then admits he only just came to and still can't fathom the clan's true condition. He demands to know the clan's total debt to their groups. Joe gapes at Mujin talking repayment, but Mujin brushes him off and tells the trio they need the exact sum before anyone can set a repayment schedule. The trio exchange fierce nods and commit to revealing the ballpark figures. The clan is chained by debt: 5,300 gold to the Pengyang Merchant Group, 3,200 to the Golden Finance Manor, and 1,900 to the Muryong Merchant Union. Once they finish naming the figures, Mujin slams down the final tally: 10,400 gold. At that moment, the merchant leaders snapped and unleashed the grievance that had been gnawing at them. They finally confess the Chonghua Merchant Group has been crushing them under relentless pressure. And this surprise, it's Mojin. The trio exposes the Chonghua Group has been weaponizing its massive wealth, squeezing the Hua clan over their debts and making life brutal for them. The Chonghua group choked the market, cornering every trading good and slamming the door on the merchant groups that once did business with them. They even sank to the absolute low, brazenly poaching their branch managers. Bloodied and broken, the trio is forced to confess their strength is spent. They can no longer endure the torment. Cornered into signing away their rights to the debt, they had no choice but to speak up. Mujin replies, gratitude roaring in his chest. Thank you for all the help you've given me so far. Only they clung to the clan as it crumbled. Mujin vows he'll repay their gratitude properly. He swears to them he'll repay every single thing they're owed. Right now. This slams into the trio like a thunderclap, ripping the breath from them and leaving them frozen, wide-eyed. Mujin roars that, in return for the interest and every bit of help they've provided, the clan will wrench their groups free from the Chonghua merchant group's iron grip. Shock ripped through the trio. They lock eyes on Mujin and snap. Are you trying to use force on our behalf? Mujin slams his palm down, eyes blazing, and snaps. That's exactly what I mean. Panic choked Du's voice as he blurted to Mujin that the Chonghua group was backed by the dreaded Kongdong sect. It ranks among the Moram's mightiest sects, a ruthless powerhouse feared and respected across their lands. The trio spots Do spiraling into panic and yells at him to breathe and pull himself together. They barked at him. Getting the debt repaid is enough. They won't let the Hua clan and the Kongdong sect come to blows. They declare to Do that their minds are finally at ease. And as they say it, Mujin clamps his mouth shut, letting no words escape. When the meeting wraps, the trio springs up and makes a swift, decisive exit. I won't hype the clan. No way. Use this instead. Let's crush hate and forge a future of justice and unity. Mujin snapped, ordering Do to immediately dig up intelligence on the Chonghua group, starting from their finances, then their operating regions, their trade goods, and even any ties to the Kongdong sect. Do's breath catches as it suddenly hits him Mujin might actually mean it. Mujin, incredulous that Do thought he was joking, snaps that he'd already said grudges and kindness must be settled clearly. Mujin snarls that if they let the Chonghua group keep operating, they'll keep being a relentless pain in their arse. Mujin snarled that if they can't protect the merchant groups when they need it, they won't help them again. That pushes Mujin to steel himself, ready to help them, even if it's only this one time. He steeled himself. The trio would scoff and brand the whole thing as a lunatic's mad bravado. Mook bursts in, declaring they'd finished the task Mujin gave them. Mujin's grin explodes, and he summons the group to close ranks and greet the clan's elder and chief steward. Do and Joe reel, breath stolen, when they realize they're staring straight at the four demon brothers. The four drop to their knees before the elders, begging them to watch over and protect them. Shock pins them in place, mouths sealed. Neither can force out a single reply. Mujin snaps at the two to brace themselves. Something even more shocking is about to unfold. He drops a bombshell. The four are younger than him, and the elders reel as their composure shatters. Even Masak, standing behind, reels. He refuses to accept what his ears just heard. The brothers, on the other hand, gape in disbelief. Why are the elders losing their minds over them? The elders glare at Mujin and demand, why did you bring the four demon brothers here without consulting us first? Mujin hurls the question back at them, eyes blazing. Did you even consult me before trying to sneak my siblings out of the mansion? Mujin glares at the elders and declares he alone wields the power to force the four brothers to stay or cast them out, reminding them he'll be the next clan patriarch. Mujin whirls at Masak and snaps for him to go buy a cow. Masak pales and sputters that their coffers are empty after coughing up over 10,000 gold to the merchant groups. Mujin falls deathly silent. He yanks them into the treasure room and they reel, nearly losing their minds at the sight. Mujin smirks and drops the bomb. He's got everything Yongsu had. He swore to them he hadn't killed him. Du grills Mujin about the folding screen. Mujin drops a bombshell. Yongsu insists it's one of Jiang Sosen's pieces. And Du staggers, nearly collapsing from the shock. Mujin snapped that they wouldn't sell the screen for less than 90 gold, so he snatched it up. Seeing the cash, Mujin barked at Masak to zip it and go buy the meat. Meanwhile, a cold certainty grips Mujin. There. Wait, is the folding screen acting up? The following morning Mujin bellowed, summoning his siblings, the four demon brothers, and the clan instructors. Mujin barks his verdict. He's decided they all need special training. He declares that real swordsmanship is forged in the body that wields the blade. No matter how legendary the martial art, it's worthless if your body collapses. Because of this, Mujin declares they're all about to be plunged into brutal special training. He's personally storming in to supervise it. He then bellows to them that the rice sack at their feet tips the scales at 144 kilograms, and it will be their loyal training partner. Mujin snaps, adding that the rice is not food. The moment he catches any of them eating it, they'll be dead before they blink. Dojin and Soyeon froze, stunned to discover their sacks weighed no more than 15 kilos each. Chilboin spins on Mujin and snaps, What are we supposed to do with the sacks? And he roars for them to hoist them onto their shoulders. Shock hit Chillboyne like a bolt, and another warrior snarled that the sack was too heavy for even 2 men to lift. Mujin's expression snapped into a snarl. He roared at them to pick up the sack or he'd trash them. He snarls that the blade might not slice cleanly, but one strike will snap their bones. He bellows the choice: carry the sack or step up and spar with him. Terrified by Mujin's words, the warriors snatched up the sacks instantly. Mujin roared, ordering each of the 4 demon brothers to shoulder 3 sacks, and if they don't want to, they're free to step into the ring and spar with him. The fear of sparring with Mujin hits like a shove. All 4 snapped into action, hoisting 3 sacks with eyes bulging like they'd pop. Terror claws at the elders, who erupt into panicked whispers as they scramble to guess what Mujin is planning. Mujin roars encouragement, insisting that with the right mindset they already possessed the strength to lift the sack. Mujin roared that nothing was impossible. If they failed, only death would be waiting. Once everyone had snatched up their sacks, even his siblings, he barked for them to start sitting and standing. He barks that they'll have to do it 200 times. Mujin explodes into action, the first to move, roaring for the others to follow his lead. Screams tear through the air as the group fights to hold their stance. Mujin keeps urging them on, his fierce encouragement lighting a fire that won't let them quit. He barked, "Clench your stomachs and shove up. Do it or you die." Muck feels his entire body slam down beneath him. He can feel death breathing down his neck. If he can't endure it, he's dead meat. Mujin would pummel him into a bloody pulp. A hush falls as the elders lean in, burning to know exactly what training Mujin has dedicated the warriors to. Watching it alone rips the energy right out of you. While some sit and others stand, Mujin roars, accusing them of squandering the clan's food under the guise of being martial artists and insisting they have no right to complain. If they can't endure this tiny hardship, they don't deserve to live. As dusk fell, they finally blasted past the 200 mark. He hits the count. One of them crumples to the floor like a rag doll. Mujin sneered. Wasting an entire day on nothing but warm-ups didn't faze him. He snarls, ripping into their pathetic stamina and declaring they don't deserve to be called martial artists. He bellows that from that moment on, they'll fuse into one with the right sex. He barks that they must spar with the sacks, chow down with them at every meal, and crash into sleep clutching them. He proclaims the sack their partner. Nothing changes until he says otherwise. He barked at Jiang, ordering him to bind everyone according to their sex. Anyone who dares untie that sack will watch their life unravel with it. Exhaustion crushes Jung. He aches to see his mother's face. Mujin marched toward his room and barked at Masak. From this day on, every single meal for everyone must have beef. Masak lunges in, asking if he should prepare the bathwater, but Mujin waves him off coolly. "I'll tell you when I'm ready." Mujin slams onto his bed, folding into a breathless, defeated heap. He crashes into sleep instantly. That night, the whole group storms into the dining hall. They filled the hall, sacks tied tight to their backs. They cram snacks into their mouths even as they eat. One of the warriors spins to his boss and snaps, "My hands won't stop shaking," even though they'd honed nothing but their legs. His senior grabs his shoulder and confesses he feels the same. He's not the only one. Not once did this ever happen when they trained under their old masters. That warps the whole situation into something utterly bizarre. The next day, the torturous training slams back, mercilessly shredding their bodies and wills. This time, they're forced to drop and crank out push-ups. Mujin pins his gaze on their stance as they tackle the task he set, even as he tackles it himself. Jill Boyne's jaw drops as she watches the warriors all slam out brutal, hellish push-ups. At dawn the next day, they haul their training outside, crouching low as they circle the village with heavy sacks strapped to their backs. Horror etches every villager's face as they scramble, trying so they can finally crack the code on exactly what they're watching. Training roars into the next day as they heave the sacks, pumping them up and down. Even Mujin feels the pain bite him, but he is in. A thrill surges through him. His siblings are keeping up far better than he dared hope. He teeters, fingers itching to crank the difficulty higher. The next day, he drags the group to a river roaring with a mad current. The warriors reel at the sight, shock pinning them as doubt screams why they're even here. Mujin bellows to the group, "Our mission is to cross the river while lugging those sacks." The current alone sends the warriors reeling, and it only gets worse. At the river's end, it hurls itself over a roaring waterfall, turning the current into a deadly plunge. While the others are panicking, Soyeon practically vibrates with excitement, itching to dive headfirst into the grueling training. It hits her like lightning. Dojin can't swim, so she snaps, "We have to tell Mujin." The elders warn Mujin the river may be uncrossable. The current rages like a beast, dragging people to their deaths and swallowing anyone burdened with heavy packs. Mujin flashes a cocky grin at the old men, telling them everything's already been tested before they move. And the elders stare, baffled because they don't know when he ever tested the river crossing. Mujin brushes them off and snarls at the warriors, "Cross the river, every last one of you, or face me in battle." The instant the warriors grasp what's at stake, they hurl themselves after Mujin. Even Muk growls at his comrades, ordering them to battle the raging current. It's far better than facing Mujin. Before they can even blink, all of them hurl themselves into the river. Even Dojin, who can't swim, plunges into the river. He's got no other choice. Dojin's desperation burns like wildfire. He's hell-bent on proving he's a Flamehua warrior too. That burning drive catapults him to leap in. The current rages too fiercely and Dojin scrambles to keep up. Every step a desperate fight. In a heartbeat his fingers betray him and he plummets. He plummeted straight to the riverbed. The elder's eyes go wide. Then they explode into screams at Mujin. A panicked shout ripped into him. Dojin's being swept away! Surprising everyone, Boyne lunges after Dojin. He lunges and snatches him at the last second. He roared for him to draw a deep breath and cling to him tight, because they're barreling straight toward the fall. It's already too late. No turning back now. They plummet, tumbling straight into the roaring waterfall. The elders shrieked, terror ripping from their throats. Moments later, Dojin and Boyne burst into view, and Boyne claps Dojin on the shoulder, beaming. You did great. Dojin throws himself at him, voice breaking. You saved my life, thank you. Mujin bursts onto the scene and snaps. Dojin, you alright? You didn't slam into anything, did you? Dojin tells Mujin he's fine, flashing a grin because Boyne barreled in at the last second and yanked him to safety. Boyne froze as Mujin materialized right behind them, panic clawing at him while he scrambled to figure out when Mujin had been trailing them. Mujin grabs Dojin's shoulder and snaps. Don't push yourself so hard. It would be a disaster if anything happened to you. Dojin snaps at his brother. I'll see this to the end. I can't stay a child forever. Dojin roars that only by never losing his strength will he rise as a true martial artist of the Flamehua clan. The next day, the warriors are forced to scale a sheer cliff, lugging heavy sacks strapped to their backs. The instant they hit halfway up, Mujin roared for them to scramble up now. One slip and they'd plummet to certain death. One of the warriors, brown-headed and wide-eyed, realizes Mujin's gone mad and bitterly wishes he'd stayed back. In a heartbeat, his footing gives way. He begins to plummet. They lunge and seize one of the warriors. Desperation claws at him as he pleads with the dude for help. He roars, snatch that rock right in front of you. The warriors tore back to the manor when Mujin roared that whoever fell behind would have to carry him on their back. A kid who watched the whole thing is driven to turn to his mother and demand, are the warriors death row criminals? His mother hurls the truth at him. They're warriors of the Flamehua clan. Soyeon hurtles down and slams into the ground with a bone-jarring thud. Elder Joe bolts across the room to check on her. She's utterly drained and implores Joe to carry her. Elder Joe didn't hesitate. He swept her into his arms and barreled past the other warriors, and that's when everyone realized Soyeon had been faking her exhaustion. Woo-jin senses a ripple of discontent. Some around him are seething over this. He sneers, Go ahead! Collapse like a little girl. You're the ones always comparing yourselves to her. He snarls. Try that and you'll have just signed my death warrant. Finally reaching the manor, they pitch onto the cold stone in a tangled heap, completely spent and gasping. Just then, one of the warriors who'd helped the brown-headed man stormed up to him and ripped into him for always trailing the pack during training. He roars at him. How long are you going to stay a wimp? If you can't keep up, stop dragging everyone down. He chokes out. I'm doing this because Mujin threatened to kill them. Turns out he's been itching to hang up his sword and walk away from the warrior life for years. Fear seizes him. The second he says he wants to quit, Mujin could kill him. He lashes out, bellowing that he's terrified of Mujin. That's why he's been falling behind in training. He snarled, I'll kill the brownhead. You're not fit to be a warrior. Boyne storms in, snarling at the giant dude that not everyone can be like him. The dude sneers and rockets a brutal fist straight into Boyne's groin. He hissed, I'll start by killing you. Muck rockets between them and roars at the warrior to back off. Boyne's right. The brownhead gives everything in his own way. And since he joined the clan, he's our brother. The giant thunders they'll never grow strong if they keep acting like wusses. Muck snaps that Mujin trained a few years ahead of them. So everyone has to approach things differently. Muck snarls that the guy only gets to sling those cutting words after he actually surpasses him. The giant stomped off, rage coiling in his voice as he snarled at the brown head. If you ever hurt me again, I'll kill you. Later that night, the towering giant emerges from the toilet and catches a faint voice calling from afar. He slips through the shadows and finds Mujin alone in the dead of night. His sword a silver blur as he hones every strike. The dude gapes. Mujin moves in a lightning-fast blur. A cold punch of truth hits him. Mujin is completely out of his league. They're barely a few years apart, practically peers. Mujin's head snaps up. Someone's watching him. He snarled, Show yourself now, or I'll come find you myself. Cornered, he's forced out of hiding, and Mujin snaps, What are you doing? He snaps that he was just returning from the restroom when he accidentally barged into the training session, swearing he never meant to watch. Mujin scoffed that training had already bored him and barked for him to drop the rice sack and snatch up a sword. Shock rips through him, but he clamps down, nods, and does exactly as he's told. Mujin barked, "Come at me!" He rockets toward Mujin, a human bullet tearing through the air. Mujin barely moves and effortlessly blocks the strike, his other hand casually tucked behind his back. He charges ahead, unleashing his next bold move. Suddenly it hits him. Speed floods his veins. He's faster than before. Mujin's eyes snap to it, and with a slow nod he admits it. The guy's gotten way stronger. He swears he's still not focused. Mujin darts behind him and he slams his hand across his back with a thunderous crack. A brutal blow sent him crashing to the ground. A gasp rips through the air as he rockets back to his feet in a heartbeat. Mujin admits a single blow once sent him flying. Now his strength finally hits home. Even the dude can feel the shift. The same thing that would have frozen him to the spot before can't touch him now. Mujin claps him on the shoulder, praises him, and insists he go rest. The following day, Mujin barked to the warriors. "Today you're working on your abdomens," he barked. "Hoist the rice sack up between your legs and cling to it." The first group's whole purpose, to instruct, while the others freeze, jaws dropping in stunned silence. Task finished, they bolt back into the village again. The brown head teeters on the brink, seconds from plunging when the jupe. Out of nowhere, a dude suddenly strides right up to him. She gritted her teeth and hissed, "Endure it, we're almost there." Mujin spots it and a triumphant grin lights up his face. His teachings are working. A month later, Mujin summons the warriors and proclaims the special training over. He smirks and tells them they're free to untie the ropes and set down the sacks, just as they're about to erupt into celebration. Mujin declares they'll face this training twice a year, every summer and every winter. He drops the bomb. The next training hits next winter, only a few months away. He assures them it'll be easier now. They've already been through it once. Mujin declares their training is over. He bellows that a honed body forges into a razor-sharp sword. He bellows to them that the time has come for him to conduct. He dove headfirst into personal one-on-one sparring with them, forging their experience into something sharp and battle-ready. He bellows for them to step forward the instant he calls their names. Exactly as predicted, they all lay battered and knocked senseless. Pain forges experience, and that hard-won knowledge sparks a brand-new transformation. The clan's seal slammed shut, crowning the 4 demon brothers as its official instructors. Piece by piece, the clan clawed its way back to the greatness it once ruled, that once blazed as the guiding light of Shichang. Later, Du watches Dojin lock horns with one of the instructors, and his jaw drops as Dojin matches him blow for blow. The elders erupt into relieved cheers as Dojin too snaps his familiar joyful grin back onto his face. Relief surges through them. The 4 demon brothers have finally settled in, thanks to Mujin snapping back to his senses and steadying the clan. Does he even admit that things are going so well it's starting to terrify him? Mujin's been trapped in the storage room for days, and they're frantically asking when he'll finally burst out. They had no idea Mujin was locked in a fierce mental duel with the folding screen. Mujin senses that the more fiercely he unleashes his inner energy, it lashes back harder, answering with an even stronger blow. A thrill surges through him as he dares the folding screen. Who'll cave first, him or the folding screen? Days later, the folding screen coughed up its final spark, drained to nothing, and plunged into darkness. It handed Mujin the means to bulldoze right through. Mujin stormed up to the mirror and jabbed the button. It spits out a bottle brimming with a sickly greenish liquid. The bottle reeked, and Mujin admits the person who installed the device in the screen is downright twisted. He finally realizes why that weird, poisonous energy felt like it was leaking out. Without warning, a book catapults out of the folding screen. Mujin snatches it up. His jaw dropped. The screen held a manual on the mind-severing sword art, the exact thing they'd been trying to conceal there. Mujin dives into the book, devouring every page, then slams back in disappointment when he realizes the whole thing only matches the skill of one of Hubei's 10 great martial masters. Disappointment slammed into him, but he refused to let it be a total waste. Mujin's eyes snap. He sees the owner's cultivation method diverges from his movement arts, and he instantly knows this technique will suit the Flamehua clan far better. He can't teach the warriors swordsmanship. His foundational cultivation runs on a different system that just won't sync with theirs. The peerless 9 swords spring from agile movement arts. The flame Huaklin roar from raw, youthful energy martial arts, and their energies collide with properties violently at odds. Mix them recklessly, and your energy will twist into a deviant storm. The peerless 9 swords are entrusted only to pure beginners who've never belonged to a sect. Mujin realized he'd hit the jackpot. The body he'd been reincarnated into already had its energy core shattered into nothing, a pristine void, so he carved his movement arts into it effortlessly with no obstacles. Mujin's grin flares as he clutches the book. He knows this book will blaze into the Flamehua clan's sword art. Moments later, Mujin storms into the Elders' Hall, slams the book onto the table and demands they read it. The Elders erupted into frantic shouts when they realized what they held, telling Mujin it was the original text of the mind-severing sword art lost over 10 years ago, and they were stunned that such a top-tier technique had been tucked inside a folding screen. Mujin scoffs, insisting Youngsu almost certainly never even noticed it was there. Du leans forward and asks Mujin if he truly intends to teach the warriors martial arts, and Mujin retorts that the clan has no real swordsmanship art. This is basically their lucky break. Mujin declares he'll start teaching the warriors starting tomorrow, admits he doubts the instructors will be ready to learn it, then strides off to sleep, telling the elders they're free to copy it if they're willing to learn. The instant those words hit them, they explode into wild celebration, like fish that just plunged into water and came alive. The warriors erupted like they'd hit the jackpot when word came of an ancient high-level martial art, something the clan had never owned. And that revelation welded them together tighter than steel. Dojin and Soyeon vaulted onto the wagon, whooping with excitement. The 4 demon brothers poured themselves into brutal personal training, each forging a deadly style, and Mujin was certain that even without the mind-severing arts, they'd rise through the martial ranks. Time ripped forward, and another month vanished before they even noticed. Mujin strides into the yard and stops dead. It's eerily empty. Mujin spins on Masak and snaps, "Where did everyone disappear to?" Masak bellows that the sparring tournament, the Little Dragon Ascension tournament, is officially underway. Mujin's brow shot up in confusion. Masak smirked, sure he'd blanked, and announced Shichang's biggest event only happens every 5 years, and the winner grabs the qualification spot for the Orthodox Muram tournament. The instant Mujin hears it, he rockets into town, not even glancing at Masak to ask where the event is being held. Mujin snaps at Masak. "You should have told me about something like this." Watching those old men try to savor the good show all by themselves rips at him. Meanwhile, Joe and the kids burst onto the tournament grounds. They're signing their names when a rude dude barges in. Turns out the dude is Jang Seun, the Baek clan's chief steward, standing beside their representative Baek Seun. And when Jang spies Joe and the Flamehua clan in the tournament, shock slams into him. Joe shrugs off the dude's rudeness and offers a humble greeting, while the dude keeps sneering at the Flamehua clan. He sneered, mocking that they somehow scraped together the tournament entry fee, then jabbed Joe. "Will your clan even have anything left to eat after coughing up those fees?" He slams the question down. Have they paid the membership fees they've been owing for 10 years? Young rips into Joe for bringing the kids, sneering that they look like they're about to starve to death. And Dojin and Soyeon are already fuming. Mujin darts through the streets and freezes. He's completely lost in town, and he's kicking himself for not asking Masak where the event's being held. He scans the distance and the realization slams into him. It's unfolding exactly where the crowd is gathered. At the same moment, 2 singular figures burst into view, an old man and an old woman. His granddaughter strolled through town, eyes wide as she drank in every sparkling detail of its beauty. Mujin hurtles past her, shouting for her to get out of the way. Mujin skidded to a halt in front of them and snapped, "Where's the event being held?" Seething, Mujin whips around to the lady and demands if she knows where the event's being held. But she fixes him with a scornful stare, so Mujin snaps, "Why are you staring at me like that?" Her grandfather barges in, blurting to Mujin that they're lost too. Not locals, and still roaming the streets searching for the venue. The old man barks at Mujin to shout to them the instant he manages to find it. But Mujin rockets off shouting, "Find the venue yourselves, you've got legs." Mujin bolts off like a maniac, and the lady turns to her grandfather in disbelief, asking what's wrong with Mujin. He's never seen anyone that rude before. The old man rasps that madness seems to have swallowed Mujin whole. The instant those words leave his lips, her jaw drops, realization hits. Her grandfather is talking about Mujin. He's the son, the direct grandson of Hua Jutai, a legend's bloodline coursing through him. The old man beamed, glad he'd shown up himself, because the air crackled. Something electrifying was about to erupt. At the venue's entrance, the air crackled as tension between Zhou and Zhang snapped into an electric standoff. Zhou tells Zhang that the membership fees they owe will be paid back before they can blink. Zhang refuses to back down. He sneers at Zhou and spits, "What year are you finally going to pay what's due?" He sneered, ripping into them and shredding their secret techniques. Sick of the guy's trash talk, Zhou's hand snapped to the hilt of his sword. He snapped at him to stop trash talking in front of the kids. His patience was razor thin. Zhang whipped his sword free, daring Zhou to draw his own blade. Right as they were about to tear into each other, he storms in and snaps, "Back off. It's the kids' day, and they'll be devastated if you adults ruin it." Mujin thundered, his face twisted into a terrifying mask, declaring this day belonged to the children. the very hope of Shuchang. Mujin strides past Young, and Young immediately spits the same venomous insults at him. Mujin ignores him, storms over to his siblings and snaps, "Why didn't you tell me there was a special event going on?" While Dojin stammers, Soyeon storms forward and tells Mujin they'd hoped to win it so they could spring a surprise on him. Mujin smacked a proud pat on Soyeon's head, grinning at the steel in her mentality. Jang's lips still refuse to stay sealed. He sneers at the clan's poverty, and Mujin snaps, roaring that a clan's true worth is its martial art, not its wealth. Out of nowhere, the old man from earlier strode back in and roared his approval of Mujin's fearless truth-telling. The old man spun to Zhang and urged them to sheath their swords. It's a special day. So Zhang snapped, "Mind your business. You're not of the Flame Hua clan." Young snaps that poverty isn't a badge of honor you parade in a martial arts clan. He sneers at Mujin that he should have bought his siblings new clothes before coming to cheer them on, then drives the knife deeper by saying they must have spent every last coin on the entry fee. Du explodes in fury again, but the old man cuts in. He sneers that clothes mean nothing. No silk suit will turn a weak martial artist into a master. Zhang snaps, fed up with the old man's constant butting in, and orders him to mind his own business. Young steps back, sneering that he won't waste words on paupers, and dares them to prove whether his clan's training actually pays off in the sparring ring. The old man's gaze locked onto the white-hot anger blazing across Mujin's face. He snaps, "Don't let Zhang's words get to you. Guys like him are everywhere," and Mujin grins in agreement. Joe locked his gaze onto the old man, unblinking and relentless. Recognition hits him like lightning. He's sure the face is familiar, but he can't place it. Right then, a servant bursts in to tell Mujin and his clan. They've already rolled out seats just for them, ready and waiting. Mujin storms into the arena, and his jaw drops. He's stunned by how cleanly it all fits together. They spread a feast across the table, stacking plates and bowls until every inch brimmed with food. The kids' jaws hit the floor at the food, but Mujin slams his palm down and snaps, "Don't gorge yourselves. The sparring could start at any second." Jaws hit the floor as the Beck clan is swept into the VIP seat. Zhang whirls and levels an ice-cold grin at Mujin. Rage simmers in Mujin, itching for the moment he can beat Zhang senseless. He's already picturing tearing out Zhang's eyes first. Right then, a weathered old man shuffles forward and asks to sit beside Mujin. Mujin's eyes narrow as he wonders why the old man keeps tailing him, and the old man just shrugs, telling him he's free to do whatever he wants. Just as the kids lean in, Mujin rips through the quiet with a frequency whisper, ordering them to drop their food and not touch a bite until he eats first. Haya, the old man's granddaughter, bursts in clutching a bottle of alcohol. She tilts it, sending a ribbon of liquid into his cup. The old man's eyes snap to Mujin as he pushes away food and water. He asks what's wrong, and Mujin shrugs, saying he already ate long ago. Moments later, the host Seokildo storms into the arena's center and bellows a welcome to everyone gathered for the event. Rumor has it he commands the Seok clan. He bellows to everyone that a feast has been laid out for them. Suddenly, Seok's eyes snap to the old man sitting exactly where he is. He bolts toward him, desperation propelling every step. Shuk drops into a deep bow to pay his respects. The old man reels, stunned that anyone would know him. Shuk snaps, "I'd never fail to recognize the esteemed face of the Poison Emperor, Tang Sumun." The moment they hear who the old man really is, the room detonates. Screams, gasps, pure chaos. The seat he occupies pulls the strings. Only 4 legends ever reigned as emperor across the Central Plains: the Wudang Sex-Sword Emperor, the Shaolin Temple Fist Emperor, the 4 Martial Heavens Whip Emperor, and the Tang Clan Poison Emperor. They stare, jaws dropped. One of the Central Plains' strongest men has just burst into a tiny children's sparring tournament in Xichang. Panic explodes in Jung. He's just realized he'd already insulted the old man without even knowing. As everyone spirals into panic, Mujin stands rock steady because a memory explodes in his mind. He knows that guy from a past life. He remembers when the 10-year war with the Orthodox sect ignited. 4 of the great clans, everyone but the Namgung clan, refused to take on the divine demon. They refused to join the fight. There wasn't a single good reason to throw themselves into war, and the divine demon had already butchered the clan's leaders and crushed their main fighting forces. Among those present that day stood Tang Sumun of the Tang clan, the very man who would later rise as the Poison Emperor. Shock beckons Tang to the VIP seats, but Tang plants his feet and snaps that he's perfectly fine right where he is. A jolt of shock hits Seok, and he scrambles to please Tang, desperate to win his favor. He declares to Mujin he's free to move his seats too. Mujin slams the offer aside and demands they restart the entire sparring event. Tang can't tear his gaze from Mujin. Each look drags him deeper. The more he realizes he's the spitting image of Mujin's grandfather, the friend who yanked him back from the brink when despair swallowed him years ago. Seok leans in, voice crackling with excitement. "It starts any second. Mujin, Are you joining? Mujin froze, baffled, and snapped, "What are you talking about?" Shuk revealed it's the Orthodox Murim tournament, the once every 5 years showdown, and with it looming he asked if Mujin wanted in. Mujin scoffs and snaps that the tournament doesn't serve him, so he won't take part. Jang rockets up to Tang, shoots a quick greeting his way, then drops into a sincere apology for what happened earlier. He blurts to Tang that he didn't recognize it. He lunges for his attention, but Tang snubs him and drains his drink without looking up. Sick of the non-stop racket, Tang pins the job on his granddaughter. Hunt down the brats and make them vanish. He steps on her feet and she hisses, herding everyone back to their seats. Her grandpa won't tolerate a scene. Shuk snaps at the old man, ordering them to start the match on the spot. Before the bout kicks off, Seok strides forward and lays out the rules. He slams down the rules. Only non-lethal wooden weapons, wooden swords or wooden spears, are allowed, and killing strikes are banned. If a supervisor or official hurls a blue pouch into the arena, the match is temporarily suspended. A red pouch ends it outright. After finishing the rules, he roars the day's first challengers, Baek, Sion, and Soyeon. Soyeon is tearing into a massive hunk of meat when her name rips through the air. Mujin declares to her, "It's time they witness just how much you've improved." Seon sneers, certain he'll knock Soyeon flat and leave him senseless. Soyeon storms into the ring, roaring at Soyeon that he's about to become the stepping stone propelling her glorious ascension. Seon's jaw drops as Seon snaps at him, rudeness slamming into him like a cold slap. Soyeon cuts him off, snapping for him to clamp his mouth shut and stop spewing trash. This enrages Seon. He snarls he'll break her arms and legs for this. Mujin leans in, his voice a razor-thin whisper as he hisses to Joe, "Have we always been enemies of Jang and his people?" Joe's voice drops as he reveals it wasn't a big problem while the Flame Emperor still lived. But after the previous clan had held the succession ceremony, a few vassals bolted and took refuge with the Bat clan. Turns out Jang is one of those people. As the clan crumbled, they hardened into ruthless hostility. Mujin snapped at them. "Why'd you turn into such a pain in the ass?" Joe drops the bomb. He and the former clan head went head-to-head in a brutal showdown when their opinions collided. The Bet clan swelled into a powerhouse, drawing wave after wave of Hua clan members into its ranks. In the arena, Seon explodes into a blistering sprint, barreling straight at Soyeon. But she sidesteps his strike with a razor-fast spin, and someone drives a savage, bone-crushing kick into his chest. Before Seon can even recover, he explodes upward, launching himself into the air. She rockets her knee into Seon's face, snapping his nose. Seon howls in agony as Seon towers over him. They mercilessly mocked him as blood dripped from his nose. Tang's jaw drops as Soyeon explodes into a barrage of kicks, and he snaps at Mujin. "Did you teach her that?" Mujin drops the bomb. Elder Joe was the one who subjected Soyeon to those techniques. He grins and declares Soyeon a top-tier athlete, itching to see how long she can last against a sword-wielding opponent. Meanwhile, Seon exploded in rage. He screamed at Soyeon, voice cracking with rage as he vowed he'd kill her. Seon lunged at Soyeon, his sword whipping through the air, but Soyeon slips and weaves like lightning, her incredible agility letting her evade every strike. Haya's jaw drops as Soyeon folds through every attack with her movement art, slipping past strikes like wind. Sion's frustration boils over, and he snaps, "You slippery toad!" Soyeon barely has time to react before she's pinned in a corner by... The Sion slammed into a corner, boxed in with zero room to dodge. Du and Joe erupt into panic, screaming and scrambling, convinced Soyeon's life is over. Young erupted in celebration, convinced Sion finally had the killer instinct to finish Soyeon. Sion launches himself at Soyeon, pouring every last ounce of strength into the charge. Everyone gasped in stunned disbelief. Soyeon launched into a jaw-dropping flip, sailing cleanly over Seon. Sion whirls around, eyes blazing and voice snapping as she tells Soyeon she's been running around for a while. Soyeon flashes a triumphant grin and tells him he's just walked straight into her trap. Confusion seized Seon and Soyeon snarls that she finally gets to beat the living shit out of him. He's the one with his back against the wall. Then she snaps her leg up with brutal force. She sneers at Sion, daring him to parry the strike with that dead hunk of wood he calls a sword. Before Sion can even react, Soyeon unleashes a thunderous kick into his head, sending him crashing to the floor, writhing in pain. The game's pace flips in an instant, stunning the elders. They erupt in cheers, all backing Soyeon. Jong unleashed a raw, frustrated groan. Sion explodes into motion, lunging in a desperate bid to fight back. Soyeon's untouchable. She keeps booting him around like a soccer ball. Before Seon can even blink, he blasts him off his feet and snaps his wooden sword in two. Dread claws at Jung as he roars at the referee to hurl the blue pouch. Soyeon towers over Seon, poised to deliver the killing blow, when the referee explodes into the ring and yanks Seon out of danger. Seon rips the silence to shreds and dives into another vicious round of trash talk. He vows to march on the Hoa clan and wipe every last one of them out. This is when Seon snaps, snarling at Seon that she has no intention of stopping. She's shattered Seon's sword. Seon scrambles to tell her the blue pouch has already been flung into the ring. The match is suspended. Soyeon snaps, "That's not my concern." Soyeon strides up and announces he's free to come to the clan later. Bring any warriors he chooses. Right now, he lies stone cold dead. Seon has no idea what's happening, until Seon swoops down and slams into him, sending him crashing to the ground. Tang's eyes lock on the scene, horror nailing him to the spot. Moojin rockets up in a triumphant leap, yelling to Soyeon, "This is the way!" Young rockets to his feet and charges the referee, demanding to know why Soyeon kept going when the blue pouch had already been thrown in. With the match suspended, Soyeon lunged at Seon, landed a hit, and was immediately disqualified. The elders' faces fall in disappointment as Moojin erupts into a manic, triumphant cackle. Soyeon slides back into her seat and shoots her tongue out at Jang, daring him with a wicked, mocking grin. Soyeon slammed back into her seat as the elders erupted, demanding why she'd kept fighting after the pouch was hurled in. Soyeon snapped that she'd known, but she loved pummeling Soyeon more than claiming the victory. Moojin throws his head back and roars with laughter, nodding hard. He fully backs his sister's take. Moojin isn't finished. He bursts into an outrageous full-on turkey dance, as if his sister had just stormed to victory in the tournament. Rage boiled in Jang as Moojin pranced around, taunting him with each mocking leap. Moojin beams wildly, urges Tang to drink their fill, and loudly vows he'll foot the bill. Tang snaps at Soyeon, eyes blazing. "Why didn't you unleash the clan's secret art? You could have won that fight in a heartbeat." Soyeon sneered that she didn't need the secret arts on trash like Seon. She was already pounding him senseless, and if she unleashed them recklessly, he'd just find a way to counter. Tang bursts into loud laughter the moment he hears it. He's completely on Soyeon's side. Tang slammed his cup down and ordered another round. The drinking party exploded into louder revelry. Every eye in the arena locked onto Moojin as he coolly clinked cups with the Poison Emperor. Matches exploded all around, yet everyone riveted on Moojin and Tang. Even Seahawk felt his patience fray, irritation tightening its grip over the whole thing. Moments later, Dojin storms the ring to face Seahawk's rep, Chu Yong. Dojin slams back his chair and storms away from the table, while Moojin fires up his brother, roaring, "Give them hell!" Tang's jaw drops the moment he lays eyes on it. Dojin barrels into the arena, blade flashing, ditching his bare-handed technique. The referee slams his whistle. The match explodes into life. Siak bristles with certainty his prodigy will seize the tournament crown, banking on that victory to force Tang to notice him. Chu Yong lunges. His very first move turns into his last. Dojin slips past him effortlessly and crushes a finishing blow into his head. Gasps explode from the crowd as every eye locks onto the shock pinned them to the spot. They couldn't even grasp what had just happened. The Hua corner explodes as its crowd roars in celebration of Dojin's win. Even Tang staggered back, blown away by the swordsmanship he'd just witnessed, because he had no idea the Hua clan even had a technique like that. Moojin then bellows that his brother's swordsmanship isn't just an efficient set of moves. It's a sword style that weaves the core principles of advanced martial arts into every strike. Confusion rips through the crowd, and Moojin rockets to his feet. He brandished the martial arts tome of the mind-severing sword art for all to see. The secret manual erupts, spitting a blinding, incredible energy that nearly rips everyone's sight away. Moojin storms forward and bellows to the crowd that whoever wants to learn the art is free to join his clan. He vows every secret in the book will catapult their martial arts to astonishing, jaw-dropping heights. Right on cue, the crowd erupts. Everyone springs up, clamoring at Moojin that they're interested. Moojin bellows to the crowd, "If you want in, talk to Elder Do." And Elder Do snaps a pen from his pocket and barks for everyone interested to fall in line. Tang howled with laughter, crowing that Moojin was true to his wild reputation. Only he'd have the nerve to recruit members smack in the middle of an event. Shock's patience snapped. He seethed that Tang was even here. Young storms up to him, eyes blazing, and snaps, "Are you seriously just going to stand there and watch Moojin and the Hua clan do as they please?" Siak snaps that Tang's watching. They're powerless to act. Young suddenly reveals he's got a strategy. They flip the bracket and catapult Seokyoso into the fight. The Hua clan's power crumbled recently, and the Shuk and Baek clans lunged into the vacuum, scheming to fill it with their own strength. Every 5 years, the Dragon Ascension tournament returns, and they rig the bracket to force their apprentice martial artists to win, then catapult them into the Orthodox Morum tournament to skyrocket their group's reputation. Power surged through the group. They zeroed in on the Little Dragon Ascension tournament, determined to seize control and keep expanding their influence. At last, the tournament's top 32 clash in one final do-or-die match. The referee bellows Seokyoso's name, declaring him the challenger set to clash with Banyo Wall of the Half Moon sect. Rumor has it the winner of this match will be thrown straight into a showdown with Dojin in the next round. Joe's eyes snap wide. Yoso isn't supposed to be participating. Joe proclaims he's the champion of the last tournament, and headlines exploded that he'd slipped into the Dian Kong sect to train. Even his opponent, Bon, freezes, eyes wide, the moment he lays eyes on Yosuo. He demands to know why he's even entered, and Ban snaps that the tournament only allows competitors up to 14 years old. Yoso smirks and snaps, "I already know," then proudly announces, "I'm 14. Bon snaps, "You're lying, I'm already 15. Yoso cut Ban off mid-sentence and charged after him. Yoso sends Ban crashing to the ground with breathtaking ease, instantly clinching the victory. He throws his head back with a proud laugh, bragging that his birthday still hasn't come. Rage flares in Joe the second he sees it. He rockets forward to intervene. Mujin snaps and orders him to drop it. Yoso's the best opponent they could ask for. Moments later, Dojin bursts into the ring to go toe-to-toe with Yoso. Tang felt the air tighten and in a heartbeat realized this was the finals. Even with Dojin on the ropes, the elders and his sister roar that he can win, while Mojin's face hardens into a serious mask as he studies the scene, trying to unravel what's happening. Yoso slams the truth at Dojin. "The sword technique you used cut your brother down." Dojin's eyes narrow and he snaps the question, "Are you trying to get revenge?" Yoso snaps at Dojin, snarling for him to stop spouting trash. Yoso unveils a ruthless plan to make sure Dojin never wields that sword again. Wasting no time, Yosuo launched himself at Dojin and unleashed the 12 Radiant Sword Strike. He hammered Dojin back, driving him onto the defensive. You surge forward, refusing to stop. They made Dojin's life a relentless nightmare. Tang sizes up the scene in a heartbeat, and instantly knows Dojin is in for a brutal showdown with Yoso. Shock whooped, eyes alight as Yoso pummeled Dojin because he's hell-bent on proving to the Emperor that they are superior. Yoso ripped his blade down at Dojin with bone-jarring force, sneering as Dojin staggered and lost his footing. Right then he too blindsided Dojin, catching him completely off guard. He slams the sword into his own hand. This is the moment he's been waiting for. Pain rips through Dojin, knocking the wind out of him. He slams into the ground, agony tearing through every bone. Yoso lunges for the finishing strike when Mu and hurls the blue pouch into the fray, bringing the fight to a screeching halt. Yosuo grins, convinced the win is already his. Mujin summons Dojin out of the arena to inspect his hand. It hits him. Yoso deliberately zeroed in on the joints. Mujin lunges in and helps Dojin nudge them into place. Dojin screams non-stop, ripping through every second of the process. When Mujin finishes, he says the bones are set but warns Dojin he might struggle to wield a sword. Asks what Dojin will do, and Dojin tells his brother to tie his hand to the wooden sword. Mujin's eyes snap wide with awe the instant those words land. He charged forward, fulfilling Dojin's request with fierce resolve. Once he's finished, Dojin storms back into the arena, his eyes burning with fierce, renewed determination. Tang roared his approval of Dojin's bravery, and Mujin shot back that, coming from a respected martial arts clan, this was the least he could do. Yosa barrels back into the ring and, stunned, blurts he never expected Dojin to stand his ground instead of running. Yoso stares Dojin down and snarls that he's about to do to him what they did to young Mujin. Dojin grits his teeth and forces out, "What did you just say, Yoso?" Yoso lunges at Dojin, snarling he'll make him and his brother the next pair of crippled brothers in Qichang. That's a wrap. If you like this, drop next part in the comments. Smash subscribe, ring the bell, hit like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.